Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Monday night. Tonight, we give you the coverage of the ISRC Lariat Productions Truck Series. These drivers have entered into Season 7, and tonight they get prepared for race number 3 after finishing up an incredible Homestead race and Daytona 2 weeks ago. They now enter their first short track of the season. They head to Iowa Speedway, a track that is going to be a handful for some at a 0.88 miles in distance. These drivers are going to have a long one, but overall, it should be a good one as it is the Iowa Sunrise 170. As we are excited to give you all the action here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Zach Hall. And Zach, the title of this race, the Iowa Sunrise, crazy to think, instead of it being the middle of the night, it is extreme early morning. These drivers are racing in sim.
That's exactly right, Sam. Right now, the conditions are 4:30 a.m., so it's foggy. It's early morning, high humidity type of situation, and we'll see as we get farther into this race, that sun should start to rise, and by the end of it, we could have some daylight out there. So it's going to be quite the opposite, the reverse of what we normally see, where we're normally going from daylight to the night light. Well, now we're going to get a little bit of a different transition. So a shake up here for the league at ISRC, and as they head into qualifying, we'll see how they can make the trucks work, and even talk to a few drivers, because we had a race here not too long ago. It was very much one of the last races of the season, and a lot of those drivers are talking about how different it's driving, and I'm wondering if that's due to the conditions we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, a kind of a reversal of what we've had last season. The season finale was at Homestead that we raced there last week. The second to last race of the season, during Season 6, was at Iowa, and now it's the third race of the season here for Season 7. As the drivers are entering qualifying. Some of these drivers already have started their first lap, but they're going to have 2 laps to put down their fastest time, and only 5 minutes to do so. If they hit the wall, get into the grass, that will invalidate your lap time, but everyone is looking for that top speed. Track position is going to be key, and top of the board currently, it's Mark Whitley in the 77er winner from last week at Homestead.
Great time already to start off for him, but I think we'll see the fastest times come through on the second lap, as it looks like Samuel Garcia jumps to the top of the board with his second lap. Vincent Sora is going to go by. He's going to jump to the top of the board with a 22.96. We'll see if other drivers pick up. Looks like Mark Whitley picked up to a 23.079. So right now, Vincent Sora holding the top position over Mark Whitley.
Vincent Sora grabbing the pole here last season, as well as led the most laps and won. He's open to be top of the board for the second time in a row. And for Vincent Sora, I think you look at the odds, he's the favorite one coming into tonight because he won that last race here at Iowa last season. But there certainly are other drivers that want to show that they're competition to watch out for. As Ollie Fonseca second, Presley Sora going to be moving up to third, and driver that led the second most laps last season here at Iowa, Thomas Green, he's out on course getting ready for lap number 1.
About to see what Green can do. Yeah, I looked at the stats too, Sam, and yeah, seeing Green, was right there up in the lap or the lap led numbers, and deposition is he's having a big mistake there coming to the green. So luckily, this is only going to be messing up really the first lap. Now it will overheat those tires and definitely scare him a little bit for coming to the white flag for his final lap, but we'll see, because this lap's definitely going to be a throwaway with that run to the line. So now going to run this higher groove here to find the speed, and that's the thing that's been interesting to watch all night long here so far, is what line do you think is going to be the fastest way around? And we'll see if Green can find the speed here, as now he's going to drop to the bottom side after a 24.38. That's going to be last on the field, of course, from that wiggle. So we'll see what his pickup is like, because like you said, he was very, very strong here, in that penultimate race of the season. We'll see now if he can find the speed as he comes out of 4. Looks like the grip is there this time, and when he crosses the line, it's going to be a 22.965, and that's a tie for Vincent Sora. I'm not sure who's going to put first right now.
It's going to give it to the 15 of Vincent Sora. It went into the 10,000ths of a second marker, and Vincent Sora is the driver that finds himself being ahead at the tiebreaker. Thomas Green's teammate of Jared Talmadge going to be moving up to third position after his second lap time being concluded. Here's Jesse Thornock, a driver that's usually, you think of the past, he was a driver that would just show up and then would do a qualifying lap. Sometimes would miss qualifying. at the end of last season and into this season, trying to put a little bit more practice in. We'll see if Jesse Thorne can find a little bit more action, as he is 7/10 off of our leader of Vincent Sora and Thomas Green, both tied again with their lap times. And for Talmadge, expecting to try to aim for the middle of the pack. Top 20 would be massive. Top 15 would be incredible. And across the line, 33rd position was his first lap, and it looks like that is exactly where he'll stay. Not a big bump up that he was hoping for, but finding consistency is going to be the key for tonight's race. Zach, we kind of touched on it before we went live. This track can be tricky. I thought I saw drivers be a little bit more stable. You kind of thought maybe the other way around with how these drivers are going to be racing.
Yeah, I was looking at a few of them and even talking to a few of them. They talked about how much the rear ends were kicking out. And really what they talked about is not having the front turn early in the corner, and then the truck would really start to over-rotate on exit. So it'll be interesting to see how that condition continues. But one thing I've noticed that you said consistency is going to be key. That's for sure, because our times are so close from first all the way down to the 11th position, separated by less than 1/10 of a second. You have to go back to all the way to Ryan Bird before we have a full 10th on from the pole position.
And we have two drivers that possibly could have been making it even closer, of having maybe 13 to 12 drivers in that marker. Justin Campbell and Shane Tarian deciding not to qualify for themselves. As qualifying is finished up, we're now entering a 5-minute warm-up period, as this gives time for the drivers to get any last little bit of practice in as well. Let's us take a closer look of how the season's been going so far, as we take a look at our point standings entering tonight. After last week's win, it's Mark Whitley topping the board for himself, having a 17-point advantage over Christopher Norris, as those two had a great duel of who's going to be the regular season champion, battle all the way back in season 5. Looks like they are reigniting that with the rookie of Larry Yingling in third, but our biggest mover after week 1 to week 2 of the season, it's Presley Sora up 19 positions, up to 11th in points.
Very much close from that first position, or really second positional back, because Whitley's with that 17-point gap looking very strong. And the one thing I look at the most that really helped him to that is those 16 bonus points. The next person you'd have to look to that has somewhere similar total is John Forbes. And, he was the winner of the season opener, had to miss Homestead last week. So that's what put him back 39 now. So we'll see what John can do to rebound from that. Of course, our 2-time defending champion. Those bonus points look to be a very valuable asset, because, if Whitley doesn't have those, Christopher Norris will only be one back. So it shows you bonus points, stage points, winning the races, getting those laps led are so critical to your points position standing.
And looking at tonight's race, some of those drivers that are on the right side, just outside of our top 16, Jarrett Talmadge, as well as Ethan Smith, both outside of our top 16. As we take a closer look at our schedule moving forward. Again, we got finished up with Daytona to start the season off. Last week at Miami, got to see two different winners, with John Forbes winning the first race of the season at Daytona, and Mark Whitley not taking very long, back out on track in the ISRC Truck Series, and he's back into victory lane. But we have tonight here at Iowa, next week at Road America, before we have a week break. And we're right back to the more racing action at Dover, Michigan, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and Canadian Tire before we enter into the second half of the regular season.
It's definitely a strong looking schedule. And of course, like you said, Mark Whitley entering back into the race winner column last week at Homestead. Now, of course, with Iowa tonight, look at the conditions. We're going into the sunrise. So it's going to be anybody's game. Of course, Road America next week. We've seen that be a hotly contested race throughout multiple seasons here. I'm excited for these next two get through.
And as we move away from our point standing schedule, we go into our pick'ems. Drivers who we think are going to be winner, who could possibly win this race, or just drivers of note to point out. And we'll start off with my driver of note. Kind of talked about him a little bit during qualifying. I'm going to go with Thomas Green as my pick'em driver. His 18 machine, again, led the second most laps last season, and he was just behind by about 5 or 6 laps from leading the most laps. Missed out on the win, but honestly, he's been finding the momentum, and it's been amazing to see Green hitting his marking game back to that consistency that we saw only back in season 2 and 3.
Definitely a great pick there. Tied with my pick going in through qualifying, so I'm gonna have to take home the 15 of Vincent Sora. I had to go with that. I think that is kind of the favorite, I would say, coming tonight after his win here not too long ago. And of course, showing here in qualifying too that our two picks very closely matched.
Yeah, and we made these picks before qualifying started and even in the middle of practice. So we had times to make our decisions, but we also want to give a chance for a shout out from our producer in the background, Robert Moyer Jr., and his pick of who he thinks to watch out for, Mark Whitley in the 77. I mean, Zach, Mark Whitley, short tracks, we look at the past. This is where he's won majority of his races.
It really has been, and I was kind of surprised by his qualifying effort. 13th, usually, he backs up qualifying more than anything is what he usually excels in, mostly in my opinion. And when, he struggled a little bit here in qualifying, this could show a little bit of weakness, but we know how fast he is. We know how strong he is. He'll be a factor before the night's out for sure.
Mark Whitley's got a lot of time to get back into the fight here this evening because it's going to be a long race. Again, it's the Iowa Sunrise 170, and that is 170 laps we will be running here this evening. Drivers will have a stage break where they can grab some big bonus points. The stage break is at the end of lap 55. They're going to have no fast repairs, 4 extra sets of tires in pit road for themselves, and the fuel window looks to be around 80 to 82 laps on fuel. So they shouldn't have to worry about fuel at all for this first stage, Zach, but tires going to be important, track position is going to be important, but these first handful of laps are really going to give us a clean picture of what we're expected to see here tonight.
No doubt. When they drop the green flag, it's going to really tell us the true picture of what this race is going to be like. Watching practice, guys were kind of all over the place, running all over this racetrack. I think once we get those first couple laps in, we'll really get to see who has what and what line will be the line to fight for. But of course, we have the changing conditions to deal with. It's going to be a wild race nonetheless to say.
Tonight's race is going to start off at its coolest temperature. We'll see how it ebbs and flows in these first 70 to 80 laps before we get a sense that maybe the sun starting to peak out. But where the drivers will start here this evening, it's Vincent Sora, top of the board for the 15 machine, tying in the lap numbers in times. It's going to be the 18 of Thomas Green to his outside. Jarrett Talmadge, teammate of Thomas Green, will start in third. Ollie Fonseca, another strong contender to watch out for here tonight, will start in fourth. Presley Sora will start in fifth position. Mason Cassidy, another strong qualifying run for himself. We'll see how well he can stay up front. Will start in sixth. Seventh is Anthony Gaudio in the 3 machine. Love to see the strong qualifying run from the 3 with Trenton Jump 8th. Ninth is the 13 of Cedric Hunter. In 10th place, we find ourselves with Joshua Kanata.
Starting in 11th, it's going to be the 38 of Christopher Norris. Alongside him, it's going to be the 49 of Ryan Bird in 12th. 13th is going to be last week's winner, Mark Whitley in the 77. Alongside him in 14th, it's going to be the 67 of Larry Yingling. Qualifying 15th, it's going to be Nicholas Crawford. Alongside him in 16th, it's going to be the 80 of Justin Sipes. 17th is going to be our week 1 winner and the 2-time defending champ, John Forbes. 18th is going to go to Danny Cochran in the 2 machine. 19th in qualifying is going to be Cody Reed, and rounding out the top 20 is Justin Smith.
They didn't qualify too well as they're going to be in the second half of the field, but watch out for their movement. Starting in 21st, we've got Sam Garcia in the 50 machine. 22nd position is the 29 of Logan Brakey. Eric Rollick, his best finishes have come at this track. He's hoping to finish inside of the top 5 once again in the 01. Again, we'll start in 23rd position. Malik Kuntz will start all the way down in 24th. 25th is Ethan Smith in the 00. Isaac Shelley will start all the way down in 26th position, but Eric Stam 27th. 28th is the 99 of Michael Miller with Martin Morales Jr. in 29th, and Corey Deal going to be in 30th position.
Qualifying in the 31st position, it's going to be the 19 of Tyler Dingler. And 32nd, it's going to be the 5 of Dakota Muniz. 33rd is going to be Jesse Thornick in the 20. 34th is going to be the 83 of Shane Therian. Alongside him in 35th, it's going to be Justin Campbell. 36th is going to be Joshua Free, with 37th going to Michael Bussell and 38 Tyler Horn, but I believe those two not here. Oh no, they're to grid.
Not here to grid. We'll see if they will take the green for themselves here tonight. But here's some of the drivers that have to go to the end of the line due to penalties. ARCA braking penalties for Mason Cassidy, Michael Bussler. They will both be sent to the end of the line. Same with Justin Forbes. If he shows up here this evening, Isaac Shelley with a pit road violation has to go sent to the end of the line. Ryan Ferraro as well as Tyler Horn both have L2 penalties, so those will be sent to the end of the line as well, as I believe they're going to have to start go with a drive-through penalty. We'll see how well some of those drivers can recover from their penalties, but up front, it is the 15 and the 18. Zach, for Thomas Green, he took over that 15 number when he first joined the ISRC Truck Series, all the way back in season 2 and 3 as Vinny stepped away. It's always odd when you see drivers that were in former numbers racing around one another, but this is going to be a good sense of how tonight's going to go with these two up front.
No doubt. I mean, tie in qualifying for him, that was impressive to see. And even our second row, Jared Talmadge and Ali Fonseca, they both were tied for their lap times. So it just shows how close everybody is. And of course, these two led the most that we're seeing on screen now, led the most laps of anybody combined in that last race here at Iowa. So I expect them to be strong contenders, but let's see who can emerge to give them a run for their money.
Other drivers of note that have found themselves in victory lane here in Iowa. Back in season 2, it was Justin Sipes. In season 5, it was Danny Cochran. Before last season, having Vincent Sora into victory lane. A pace car into pit road. Green flag is out of the air. Your Iowa Sunrise 170 is underway as Vincent Sora going to get the better launch on the inside. Shelley, though, and we're going to be seeing how well that some of these other drivers can react up front as drivers are exiting pit road of Corey Deal. And it's going to be seen the 18 of Thomas Green, Vincent Sora side by side. And Zach, it is going to be Thomas Green in that outside position. He's muscling his way forward, and the 18 leads lap number 1.
Give it to the 18 there in the outside line, looking strong here to start. And Vincent Sora is going to just give up that position into 1, and even going over the bumps there a little bit loose for the 15 machine as he slides up on the back straightaway and takes control at second. But it's going to be Fonseca who holds on to the 3rd position as Presley Sora now in that 12 machine trying to work around the outside of the 10 of Jarrett Talmadge as everybody looking for that outer lane to find the green.
Up and on board the 12 machine of Presley Sora and seeing how well he can follow the 24 forward, and expecting to see the 12 also be a strong contender, short track specialist in the real life racing for himself, and also on the sim side of things, a very decorated iRacing driver. It's Presley Sora trying to make the outside lane work. Ali Fonseca trying to be the spearhead as they continue to race on, but our top 2 continue to pull away.
A little bit of blinking and connection issues there. We see that regularly from the 12 and the 15. Sometimes those two on the same internet connection, so sometimes that can run into some issues there. But look who's also starting to drive his way up here. It's the 46 of Trenton Jump, past champion here at ISRC. He wants an opportunity to go fight for a race win that really has eluded him for a while after missing last season.
Yeah, it's kind of been a can he find his own pace and spot in this season. There's so much competition entering into this season 7 as trouble strikes as Justin Sipes coming into the outside wall as multiple drivers trying to avoid. He'll come clattering back down. Oh my goodness, Ethan Smith went tumbling for himself.
Ooh, this one is going to be a little bit of an ugly incident there as Ethan Smith, barrel rolled through that. But yeah, I think Sipes there just getting into the 67 of Larry Yingling there on the exit of the corner and just kind of sliding up. You know, it's easy to do here. Yingling's on the outside. You can see this 80 just coming up the racetrack, and he's going to keep coming into the 67 there and even come down and kind of sideswipe the 67. And that's what caused Ethan Smith to go for a ride there. So I don't know if the 80 is a little bit upset at the 67, but looks like maybe either suspension damage was causing him to turn down, or that was a physical turn down.
That was a purposeful turn down. I did an onboard cockpit view. He did turn down. Here's Ethan Smith. I mean, he's thinking he's clear, but that was a wild situation. I mean, that looked like one of the worst net code just flips the driver out of their moments. As hopping on board with the 80 machine again. On board, here's the wheel inputs. Keeps it straight. He's back, and then he just cranks it over, trying to clip and drives right into the field. And you hate to see that, but Sipes, known as a driver that gets a little bit hot-headed at times, and it got overheated already just on lap number 4.
Yeah, that's not always the best look when you get the onboard view of what the hands were doing there, and I think that's going to be heavily scrutinized after the race for sure, because clearly he was upset with the 67, which I can't fault the 67. He was just kind of there, and the 80 kind of slides up into him and kind of wrecks himself off the nose of him. And you know, sometimes those are the moments where you got to go back and look at the situation before you react. And yeah, I think he'll be reconsidering his thoughts after possibly a penalty next week.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be racing next week, but again, the admins will make that decision as the 80 machine frustration. He has called it a night. Poor Ethan Smith. Netcode internet flare-ups. It sent the 00 with the flying moment that has now caused his night to be over as well. So that's already 2 drivers out of this race before we even get to lap number 10. As if you're just joining us right now, under our first caution of the evening for the Iowa Sunrise 170 here this evening, we are going to have some stage racing. Our first stage will end at the end of lap 55. Then we'll race it to the end of this race and see who wins. But already in the first showings, Thomas Green looks very strong. And the 18, Vincent Sora, our pole sitter, deciding to give up so much time, Zach. This has always been the question mark with this truck of, do you give up all this time early on, or do you keep the aggression higher up? As Sora already is going to fall back to 5th place. That's a lot of work that he's got to climb back through.
Especially now after the tires are going to cool down. You know, everybody kind of took off there, maybe overheated the tires a little bit, and now they're going to have these caution laps to help cool the tires right back down. And on a short track, that's exactly what you want to see if you're out there pushing. So, you know, for the likes of Vincent Sora, I'm sure he did not want to see that yellow one bit at all. He wanted to hope this would continue on and maybe just kind of hold station there around the top 5 and then slowly march his way forward. But, you know, we've seen with this new build and stuff, it's kind of hard to get your track position back. You know, it's almost situation where you want to be up front and making sure you're making time, because it just seems like passing later in the run just gets tougher and tougher as the tires wear.
As the field is getting ready, lights are off. We're going this time by. It's Green, Fonseca, Sora, Jump, Sora, and Talmadge going to be your top 6. Getting ready for this restart as they're exiting at turn number 4. Pace car pulls off. The fog is out there, and so is the dimness, as we are back to green flag racing. Green just showing, being the leader and having that control restart is so powerful, as he already has a 3.5 truck length lead over 2nd place of Presley Sora.
Oh, it looks like Jarrett Talmadge in the background there gets into the outside wall. That's going to create a little bit of a stack up from that 6th position on back, as he's got Cedric Hunter working outside, the 3 Anthony Gaudio, and his 3 wide there, Ryan Bird on the outside, Mark Whitley in the middle, and it looks like they're going to get that sorted out as Whitley jumps up in front of Christopher Norris there. So some aggressive racing here in the first 11 laps.
And they have to get aggressive. On the outside, it's the 49 of Ryan Bird. Bird is taking off, but it's John Force stuck in the middle. Just can't go anywhere as he gives a huge shunt to the 16 of Kanata. And Kanata with a huge save for himself. As what a move. I don't think John Force meant to give the bump that aggressively, but Kanata gets all the praise for the save.
What a save. That was for sure one of the best saves we're going to see so far of the night, because that was quite the shunt from the back of the front nose of the 11 to the back of the 16, and he gathers it up and hooks it all up together. But one thing I'm noticing, the 83 on the outside there, you got Shane Therian working his way up, and Therian is really driving up through the field. He started all the way back in the 34th position. He's fighting for 15th.
Trying to find his way forward as you're having the teammates of the 25. And that's going to be in the purple and black, Cody Reed, and the 11 of John Force, trying to work around one another. The 83 of Shane Therian is really making it work right now, up 18 positions from where he started here this evening. But the train seems to all recognize you got to move high if you want to hold steady or make any passes, as Therian is stalling out and actually has lost the position with staying low. Everyone else has moved to the outside lane. They are stabilizing or moving forward at this current moment.
This is the tough thing about this track right here, is it seems like you want to run on that bottom side. If you got a clear track all around you, you just want to run on the bottom side, because the truck feels probably naturally a little bit better down there. It's a little less bumpy normally, and it just seems like the grip is there. But if someone can get to the quarter panel, dive very hard into the corner and get to your right rear, you just don't have to turn off the corner anymore, and you become susceptible to someone making the pass. So I think that's one thing it's hard to decide is, do I want to drive it in real deep on the bottom to try to defend that, or do I just move up to the top to defend it? And right now, a lot of people are doing a lot of maneuvering to do that. Is right now Vincent Sora trying to hold back Jarrett Talmadge, Cedric Hunter, who Hunter looked to the inside, and you can see now he's stuck on the bottom, and he's got the 49 Ryan Bird even coming, and look at Talmadge, he's trying to get to the right rear of the 15.
And also have to remember, Jarrett Talmadge on this most recent restart clobbered that outside wall as He was able to recover after that tap for himself. And with how brittle we've seen these trucks be with outside wall contact, surprising the 10 is still running as well as he has been, as Cody Reed is still able to defend over John Forbes, but Reed almost having to use the wall to try to figure out how to get by some of the machines around him.
Ooh, that was very close there with the wall for sure. And you flirt with disaster sometimes here in Iowa, because it is one of those tracks where you can run that upward groove. So sometimes you just want to sell it off in there, and if it doesn't stick, things can get very, very tricky for sure. As we're looking to the back here, and John Forbes, I mean, just sending it to the bottom there in the 11 machine, trying to make this maneuver on the 3 of Anthony Gaudio, and along with that, Danny Cochran's right here in the mix with it. So a lot of drivers stacked up on top of each other.
As the driver that we were right on board with, it's a very different scheme than what you would traditionally see. That's Danny Cochran actually in the 2, and he's running a special truck scheme on a tribute for Scott Bloomquist, a well-known dirt driver, one of Danny's favorite drivers to watch, and doing a tribute scheme for, sadly, the loss of Scott Bloomquist that passed away over the weekend. And this is a special scheme that the 2 is trying to get into victory lane with.
That would be a great tribute. I mean, we saw Tyler Reddick win earlier this afternoon, and he's one of his mentors was Scott Bloomquist. So we know that a lot of drivers looked up to Scott, and definitely a tragic story to hear about his passing away. One of the greats of motorsports here in America, and we'll get to see what Danny can do to bring his name into remembrance here, as he's fighting hard on that outside groove, and everybody is. I mean, I saw one moment Cody Reed was all the way up against the wall into it and losing a few spots. So it just shows you everybody pushing super hard, not trying to save too much, as right now we're looking at that battle from 3rd and 4th with Presley Sore and Trenton Jump. Is looks like our front really 5 kind of all separating themselves.
Finally, we've gotten single file and able to run their own preferred lane, you could say, has been the front pack, as majority of the drivers now inside of our top 10 are in a position of running the inside groove until we get to 7th place, where we're kind of just settling in at this moment for Ryan Bird as well as Mark Whitley, as they continue to beat and bang back and forth. I mean, this is a race, Zach, that's going to change. It's going to ebb and flow because it's in Iowa Sunrise. We're in the early mornings, as we're going to take a look at our weather here in Zach. I mean, it's going to be bizarre with humidity, fog. It's a big thing, but it's the track temp that's really going to be helping these drivers out tonight.
No doubt. And normal thing is we talk about the track temp, as you see there, 71 degrees with a 65-degree ambient temperature with a 99% humidity right there. That's what's causing these foggy conditions. And looking at our forecast, we're not really seeing nothing but fog for the rest of this race. So the sun will come up, but that fog will be staying with us. And it's weird to say, normally the tracks cool down in races, that we do, because it gets later in the afternoon. It gets into those nighttime conditions. Well, this track's only going to begin to heat up. So this is a little bit of an opposite effect of what we're normally going to see. So we see 71 right now on the track temp. We'll see later how different that is for later in this race, because I think that's going to be a huge talking point.
Yeah, when will that transition fully be upon us? That's also going to be another factor for the field, as you're seeing really the dampening of sunlight, of lights, you should say, as the infield having no lights there. It's only on track, so sometimes it's a little bit darker looking across to turn 4, as right on board Christopher Norris in the 83 machine trying to find his way, 38 machine, excuse me, as he's trying to make his way further up inside of our top 15. Currently runs in 15th position with the 83 machine tearing in front of him.
Christopher Norris, one of the better short track racers in this series, so we'll see how he can produce here. And I know talking to him, he's like, Iowa's not my favorite track. So this is a very different short track. This place races so differently, and I think that's going to have an effect on how these drivers races. Now we're on board with that 83 of Shane, and he's trying to work the inside of the 11 of John Forbes here, try to continue his march forward. And Shane is just super impressive that he's been able to really charge up through the field and still keep a good bit of pace. Normally we'd see drivers have charged from that far back. They would at some point start to feel the effects of those ill tires and ill handling. But it seems like he's just got it all hooked up. So watch out for this 83 as this race goes on and he gets more and more track position. That speed he showed early could really benefit him.
It certainly can, but he's also probably getting the best show, some of the best battles out there on course, as Mark Whitley as well as Cedric Hunter had to really muscle their way to get by Ryan Bird, who currently is on the conveyor belt going backwards on the inside. The 49's tires look to be just limping away at this moment. Went from battling for potentially 5th position to falling back as Mark Whitley has a scare off of turn 4. But all these drivers are searching for that pace as we are now 30 laps into this run. About 25 of those laps have been under green flag conditions. We had our early caution, but drivers are starting to feel the pain on their tires that they have not been protecting them, and Ryan Bird looks to be the first one that's really falling backwards after early pushes on his rubber.
You're exactly right. Bird definitely falling back into the clutches of a lot of these drivers, and it seems like some of these drivers just starting to lose the rear end, lose a little bit of drive off that they need to make passes and hold on to positions. So we'll see how that continues. Only 31 laps into this run, so we have that caution to kind of cool the tires down. That tells me that tire preservation will be important here tonight, so it's going to be a very interesting factor to watch. But it looks like if you're Ryan Bird, if you can get up to the higher side, you can kind of preserve yourself just a little bit. And it seems like as that happens, John Forbes is going to make the passes. Now Cedric Hunter was looking to the inside of the 77 of Whitley, who had his moment off of 4 a few laps ago.
And Cedric Hunter, he's been a driver that's just been following Mark Whitley and trying to allow the 77 be the spearhead through this pack to make all these passes, as the 13 looks to be finding his momentum and pace to try to strike forward and get inside of our top 5 to gain some of these bonus points. As still leading tonight's race, Thomas Green by almost a full second over Ollie Fonseca. Big kudos to 18, who's having a perfect night so far, as he tries to continue his way forward and try to gain the most out of these stage bonus points, as the stage will end at the end of lap 55. Top 10 drivers get those bonus points, and it can be so crucial for this 18 to try to get a little bit of a breather heading into this rest of the season.
No doubt. I think the 18 is looking very, very strong out front. I'm just watching lap times. Really, the only drivers outpacing him right now would be that 12 of Presley Sora and the 15 of Vincent Sora. So Sora's looking very, very strong right now as the run continues on. They're starting to close their way up onto the 24 of Ali Fonseca, who's now dropped to almost a second behind Thomas Green. So if you're Green, you're hoping that 24 can hold them up quite a bit, because we're coming to 20 to go on this stage. If they get a good bit of time loss here, you could see Thomas Green definitely look to hold on to this stage, because those 2 trucks behind the 24 do look very strong right now.
As we're seeing the battle for the 2nd place position, is the 24 of Ali Fonseca in the purple for himself, and then also behind him in the white is the 12 of Presley Sora. Vincent Sora, the younger brother of Presley, going to be running in a 4th position in that blue 15. They continue to march forward and continue to look at lap times. Even with how close they're catching up to Thomas Green, it's looking like it's going to be more of a fight if they can catch up to 18 by the time we get to the end of this stage, unless there's a caution that really could change things up right now, especially due to the fact that these drivers are running about a second slower than their fastest lap so far.
We're seeing a good bit of fall off. This is very, very important to see, and I think this is going to make the racing very, very good tonight with the amount of fall off we're seeing already. I mean, for a short track to have a second of fall off being only a mile racetrack, or just under a mile racetrack, and not even 40 laps into the run, and really these weren't even 40 green flag laps that we've had, it definitely bodes well for later in this race. Anytime you can have tire fall off, you get those differences that you need to make those passes, and it looks like Mark Whitley was able to make the pass of Jared Talmadge, move himself up to 6. We'll see he can track down the likes of Trent Jump, who does seem to be struggling just a tiny bit right here with that last lap by a 24.41. You'd have to look all the way back to 16th at Christopher Norris, but to have a driver that's just as slow as him.
As they continue to go back and forth, who's going to be in which lane for this battling for 5th place. The battling for 2nd is heating up. The Presleys have caught up to Ollie, and they are fighting almost 3 wide against one another. Vincent Sora's been trying to pick a lane to force it 3 wide, but hasn't been able to do so. As Ollie Fonseca, he's picked the 3rd lane, and this is where he's defended so far. But here we go, 3 wide off the exit of turn 4. Fonseca's got the better positioning to get the exit pulling away, and once again, that's another lap defended. He's got 15 more laps to try to hold off for 2nd place before the stage yellow is thrown.
It's going to be tough to hold these positions off, but you never know. A caution could be right around the corner, so you got to fight strong if you're Ali Fonseca. And right now, Vincent Sora, I think He's just saying, man, if I can get around these guys, I might have an opportunity to go run down our leader. And this is going to be a good run from the 15 here. Good job clearing his brother in the 12 machine. Now he's going to look to the inside here down into 1 and 2. And this is going to be the key. Can you get the drive off on the bottom? If you can do that, you can make passes. But it just seems like that outside is very, very strong for the drive off considerations. And it looks like that Vincent Sora going to dive immediately to the yellow line. And if he can get a good enough run here to stay along side by side, he'll have a good shot going into 1.
The big thing is, can you trust, assume, figure out where the spacing is going to be so you can drive up off the exit of the corner and not run into the 24 as Vincent Sora trying everything to get clear. That was the closest we've seen someone try to get by Ollie so far. Now ships it all the way down that yellow line again, going for a slide job move, but Ollie goes down, he pinches it slightly, and they continue to drag race their way forward. But Vincent Sora, he's got a nose ahead. That's perfectly where he needs to be, and he should get clear here off the exit 2.
Yeah, that was picture perfect. What he did there was drive it really deep in the 3 and 4 there, slid up the racetrack a little bit. Fonseca gassed it back up to stay alongside. That got the 24 tight. That allowed the 15 to be a nose ahead, have the better runoff on the bottom. And if you're a nose ahead heading off into 1, you most likely can clear. You just got to be able to get that done. It's very tough to do it. Now Presley's going to try to do what his younger brother did there to see if he can fight his way forward, because right now they're 2 seconds off of Thomas Green, who's been loving all this in his man.
As this battle is going on for second place between these 3 drivers, over a second has been lost in Vincent Sora's campaign to run down Thomas Green. And the true picture of, is it better to back off or build that lead immediately? And right now, Thomas Green is proving building out the lead immediately has been successful. It's been rewarding. But again, we still have 10 laps to go before this stage is over. Going to come down to just 9 once Thomas Green crosses the line here, and still plenty of other battles that are going on for inside of our top 10 as drivers are ramping back and forth. It's really the battle, though, for 8th, 9th, and 10th place that are around one another. Excuse me, that's actually for 9th and 8th that are really getting against one another.
Yeah, you've seen Cedric Hunter here stacked up behind the 10 of Jarrett Talmadge, but it's been the 2 of Cochran who's been working the bottom side here, trying to go forward. It looks like the 46 and the 10 kind of going backwards, while the 2, the 13, the 77, all of them looking to go forward. So it's one of those conditions, again, like we saw for that battle for second just moments ago, is, you know, Talmadge is struggling, but that outside line allows you to just hold on for enough time sometimes. And you're seeing Talmadge do a great job there to get the drive off the corner, to not allow that 2 to be alongside enough to clear him in the center of the corner. So that's going to be key here and critical. But right there, the 10 tight off the corner, that allows the 2 to get a good run. And here comes the 13, possibly for a push from the teammates. And we'll see how that's going to work, because right now Cochran's trying to find the grip in that first group.
He's trying, but it's just not there to fully commit to the pass. He just doesn't have enough speed. But there's the full dive bomb move. That was for everything for Danny Cochran. But this is that build back moment for Jarrett Talmadge. He has to make the same move down into turn number 1 if he wants to hold this position, but he's going to back off early. Cochran should keep this positioning, and that's all because of that huge dive bomb move into 3.
And it's also going to hurt Talmadge even more, because, you know, the 2 makes that big dive bomb maneuver, just clears him. The 10 goes back to the inside. That opens up the door for the 13 of Cedric Hunter, who's going to make the nice clean pass on the outside. So to move Hunter up to 8th, Cochran up to 7th, and Talmadge back to 9th.
And with 5 laps still to go before the stage yellow will be thrown again, end lap 55 is when the stage yellow will be thrown. Top 10 drivers get bonus points. And right now, Talmadge is not safe to keep 9th position. John Forbes is running down this group quite quickly, and he could be setting up to move up into 9th position as other drivers behind. If we get a caution, that will be the stage. And some drivers are getting a little bit too antsy, battling for 13th and 14th, as well as a couple of other battles further on back are getting very close to one another.
There's battles all over this racetrack right now. So many drivers struggling for grip up front. It's Presley Sora who does make the pass finally on Ali Fonseca to move himself up to 3rd, and also been monitoring that battle for the lead while we watch this battle back here. Vincent Sora has not been able to make headway on Thomas Green. It stayed at 2 seconds, so it's just showing early runs. You want to get out there if you can and manage your tires and not drop back like that 15 did. It's just so tough to find the time back that you lose. But right now, the 9 of Justin Campbell working the inside of Christopher Norris is Josh Kanata trying to recover from that slide earlier. He's done a good job to make himself right back up in the mix.
Yeah, Justin Campbell, Shane Tarian. Tarian runs the 15th. Campbell fighting for this 17th and 16th position. The 9 machines both trying to make their way forward as they both had to start outside of our top 35 for not qualifying. As we move back to our leader, because we're coming up to the white flag of the stage, Thomas Green. He got the identical time as our pole sitter of Vincent Sora. It came down to the 1/10,000th of a second on who was going to take the pole. They gave it over to Vincent Sora, but since the drop of the green, Thomas Green has been the driver up front in control. And as he crosses the line, that will be your stage winner here at the Iowa Sunrise. Rest of the field, wait for the top 10 to cross the line for themselves, as John Forbes does now. Yellow flag is out, and that is your stage here this evening.
What an early stage there. It's seen a lot of fall off, a lot of different battles. That was great to see. And even right in the last second, Mark Whitley was able to pass Ali Fonseca to move himself up the 4th. So great maneuvers. I think Cedric Hunter got by Trenton Jump. So just showing you there was definitely some comers and goers there at the end of that run.
There certainly were a lot of movement going on as we are going to be seeing these drivers get ready to go into pit road. Here's your stage numbers and how they'll be divvied out. As you saw, Thomas Green with your stage win will grab 10 bonus points for himself. Vincent Sora with 9, and then it continues to drop down. Presley gets 8 in, all the way down in 10th. John Forbes with that 1 crucial bonus point. And for John Forbes, he already has a win, so it's just extra bonus points at the end of the night for him to go after that regular season championship. But the rest of the field, they recognize, all right, stage is over. Now it's all mental game of how do we set up to win this race, and it all starts here entering pit road to see how I get set up for this next restart.
This will be an interesting entry to pit road too, because you got the leader of Thomas Green who started second, so he'll have the second to last pit box. Vincent Sora's going to have the last one, and that can kind of create some issues, especially when you have a turn like this at the bend of pit road. Let's see if there's any contact made here. It can easily be done, as it looks like both of them are going to cleanly get into their boxes.
It's in their box, but such an awkward angle that they have to work into. Curious if maybe that might hurt any of these drivers. If maybe you had an earlier box that was more of a straight area, you'd be able to take off smoother with a good entry. But Thomas Green takes off, he's good. The battling for further on back, it's a little bit more chaotic, but Vincent Sora 3rd. Presley Sora all the way down in 4th. That's Tyler Horn stays out to try to lead a lap by the 28. Expecting him to enter pit road this upcoming run for himself around the track. But I think biggest surprise, Mark Whitley, big gain. Danny Cochran as well. They should be moving up to 4th and 5th once Horn enters pit road here.
Whew, if he enters pit road there, it looks like he almost missed it. It's an easy pit road to do. It's just such a tight turn off the track, and looks like he will get it done. But Thomas Green going to win that race off of pit road and hold on to the lead. What a job by him, though, Sam.
An absolute incredible job for himself. Sadly, we don't have the ability to pull in and talk to Thomas Green from the Planet Sim Racing crew, as they're in a different Discord call, it seems like. But, Zach, first 55 laps in the books. We got to see our first caution of an incident early on that most likely shouldn't have happened the way that it did, but brought out our first yellow early. I'm curious if maybe that's what settled in these drivers a little bit better for that second long run that we got to see.
Sometimes that can happen, Sam. That is a great point. When you have that early yellow, everybody can go, man, like we gotta reel this back in here and just make it through this thing, especially when the carnage we've seen off that first yellow. So it's easy to go into a race kind of amped up, make those small mistakes and get involved in something. And I think a few drivers noticed, like, all right, we gotta really clean this up if we want to keep our trucks clean. And that was a great first stage run right there. And I tell you what, it's setting up for a really good one here to finish it out for us, because it's going to be a lot of tire management and a lot of strategy, because you see what Thomas Green did, you see what Vincent Sora did. Both of the things worked, but Thomas Green worked much better by having that gap still.
Able to try to see. We'll see what strategies are going to keep these drivers moving forward. As for the stage, again, at the end of lap 55 when the stage came out, they had that yellow in the middle of it, enabled them to go a little bit further on fuel. But fuel windows we were given was around 80 laps. I'm curious if any of these drivers might think about pitting sooner than that, or will they stretch it as far as they can, as we're going to have ourselves coming up to a little bit under 110 laps to go once we go green again.
You know, that's going to be an interesting situation. Of course, with 80 laps on fuel, you can go. It's looking like it's going to split this race most likely in half here for the end. So we'll probably get about 55 lap to 60 lap runs here if we stay green. You could even see the likes of a few out there, you know, pit when you can make it. The risk you play doing that, yes, you gain a ton of time on those fresher tires. The risk you play is if that caution does come out during that pit sequence and it doesn't fully cycle through, this track being only 0.8 of a mile, you will go a lap and almost a whole nother lap down. So it's going to put you in a tough situation if you want to do that undercut, but we'll see which driver is willing to risk it and which drivers try to play the overcut to have the fresher tires at the end.
Well, as this run under pacing is getting us ready, the sun is starting to rise for the Iowa Sunrise 170, and the fog is starting to get a little bit thicker because the sunlight's coming out. So we'll see how visibility will change on top of how the track's temp is going to be changing for these drivers. But first, we got to get ourselves back to green flag racing. Thomas Green, Vincent Sora, ready for the restart. Green takes off as the green flag is out for the Iowa Sunrise 170 here at Iowa Speedway. And the 18 right back where he's been all race. Up front, it's staying low.
See what Vincent Sora does this time. Does he give up the positions? It's always Presley Sora a little bit loose off the exit of 2. Now he's going to be under attack, but the yellow flag's out here early.
Trouble for the 6 machine. Justin Smith in the back half of the field, as this was something we were expecting. Drivers getting loose, and with cold temperatures, cold tires, it strikes for the 6, get a little bit loose off the exit of turn 2.
That it was the 6 of Justin Smith there right off the exit. It almost we go back and look at the original wreck.
If you wonder what netcode wrecks look like, that's for the 71. For Stitz, as he had a network that was one of his blinks that kind of looks like he got a bigger wreck. This actually was earlier in the race as we were under green flag conditions, but this wreck was him spinning off of exit turn 2 that brought out this yellow, as that incident we just saw actually happened all the way back at, I believe, lap 20 of this race.
That was a wild ride. So Justin Smith has had a few wild rides, and yeah, his was kind of what we were talking about earlier, saying before the broadcast even started, is a few solo spins. I kind of expected a few guys to have that. Nobody else makes contact with them, just kind of goes around off his own, off the bump, off the exit of 2, and quickly found out that, man, cold tires, they don't have the grip right there taking off. And another thing I'm starting to notice here, Sam, I don't know if you're noticing this, it's definitely starting to lighten up a little bit. It's 5:35, and it feels like the light is starting to peer through this fog and dense fog we have.
Yeah, it's starting to peer through, but here's our weather conditions, and the track temp actually has gotten cooler. Track temp right now is at 68, ambient temperature at 65. Humidity, that's our fog currently. It is almost at 100%, so visibility, you're going to see get a little bit more grayer each time they come around this track as the sun comes out, and kind of like putting your high beams into a fog. You can't see much, and the sun is going to make things, with the way that iRacing works with their lighting, the fog systems, makes things a little bit harder with our far cameras. As you can see there off the exit of turn 4, it's going to get weirder and weirder to see which driver is which as they exit the corner.
No doubt, it's going to make our job a little bit harder up here in the booth for sure, deciphering a few different paint schemes. But hey, well, it is the racing conditions we've been given, so we must deal with them, so to say. So, and like you said, with the lighting the way it is in iRacing, it's almost going to make this a little bit more grayed out as we get into the lighter conditions. And it's definitely a brightening up. It's not clearing up, though, that is for sure. So we'll have to stick with this for the majority of the race. But now we're going to see another restart. And, you know, with that latest restart, I was kind of surprised to see Thomas Green take the top side or the bottom side like he did. But when you're able to jump the restart and really control the restart on your own, it works out very well still on the bottom side. So not surprised to see him do that. And that's actually a huge benefit for the likes of Vincent Sora, because if he restarted on the bottom, that would give the opportunity to someone like Mark Whitley to get to your right rear quarter panel. And that's something you definitely don't want to have happen on a restart, because that'll quickly put you in no man's land on the bottom.
It certainly would, as the field is been given, trying to wait for that one to go indication by our pace car lights going off. It's going to give us another pacing around. I want to say thank you to all those that are watching with us here on your Monday night, giving you coverage of the ISRC Larry Productions Truck Series. My name is Sam Dyer. With me up at the booth is Zach Hall, and running productions in the background is Robert Moyer Jr. As tonight's race, one of many that we're going to be having throughout the week. We also have coverage tomorrow night for the Challenger Racing League as they head to Michigan in the next gens. Then on Wednesday, WSSR Cup Series start the playoffs as they get a chaotic start for themselves as we head to Talladega to start the playoffs for season 9. And then get ready for a brand new season. Thursday night, it's the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series as the open setup next gen cars head to Indianapolis for their first race of the season. That is your schedule for this week of coverage that we'll have here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Then we'll take the weekend off. We'll be right back here next week for Road America. And I gotta say, Zach, this upcoming schedule for this week gonna be a fun one overall. A lot of big tracks that we're heading towards. But next week we go even bigger. Road America is gonna be a tough one for this field as it is the fourth, such a different course that this field gets to handle in the first 4 races of the season.
Oh, no doubt. It's definitely been some good variety here in the first 4, and that one's definitely going to put a handful on the drivers. I know I was watching a few guys try a few setups out there today, and that was interesting to say the least to say. So it's a fun racetrack, and I think we'll have quite the race there as we've had in the past.
Has got a Mark Whitley fan out there in chat, hoping for a great restart for that 77. He'll start on the outside in that second row, but up front, it's Thomas Green taking the green flag for the Iowa Sunrise 170. Rest of the field, visibility's getting tougher for us. Couldn't imagine how tough it is for the drivers as the sun is starting to peek out for the sunrise. It's Thomas Green trying to scoot his way past Vincent Sora and pull away from the rest of the field.
Look at this, Mark Whitley, as he takes a big drive off into the center of the corner. I think we're seeing a little bit of connection issues as you can see his wheel going back and forth, left and right. And look at the run he has. He goes from third almost all the way to the back bumper of the leaders. He got past Vincent Sora like he was standing still. Whitley pushing for everything.
Mark Whitley, notoriously known driver that once he gets clean air, he is dominant. It almost feels unstoppable to get by this 77. And when he has a bad qualifying run, there's so much worry of, will he get that position back? And it looks like he's found the spots. He's found his openings, fresh rubber. It's all the 77. Mark Whitley diving it down low, not able to make the pass, but he puts down the purple lap. He's the fastest driver on course, but he cannot make the pass just yet. It is Thomas Green with the defensive positioning to hold off for the lead.
Great job from Thomas Green there. And these two, Whitley, big loose off the exit of 2 there, or off the exit of 4, almost really wrecks that machine as he gathers it back up and keeps it straight as he loses the time to the leader of Thomas Green ahead. And now we have the battle for third regional. It's Presley Sora looking to the outside of Vincent Sora as everybody looks to be making lap time. And his thing is everybody knows how much the track position mattered. Is now John Forbes. He's making the big maneuver on the 24 Fonseca, who was battling for second at one point earlier in this race.
John Forbes, one of our biggest movers so far this race. There's about 8 drivers with over double digits gains on their positions from where they qualified, and all knowing it is better to make the passes early on, because once you have 20 laps under this tires that you're using right now, it almost feels like it's impossible to make a pass unless the drivers around you make mistakes, as you're seeing everyone try to go for a dive bomb move or try to get to that third lane to make a massive run like we saw Mark Whitley earlier. But we're too far in. These drivers are stalling out and they are stuck for the next 20 to maybe 25 laps before they start to see more wear and tear on the tires that give them an advantage.
And that's exactly right, Sam. You know, the thing is like early in the run, you got guys that do really kind of work the tires in very gingerly. And what I mean by that is they just kind of run a little bit slower or just a little bit less, hard on the race trucks. And what that does is sometimes it makes very easy passes for the rest of the people who are going out there trying to set the world ablaze and run fast laps. It makes the passes very easy. And guess what? The drivers who have saved their equipment, when they come back around and catch those drivers, those are easy passes. Those drivers they let by that very easily early in the run, those are all very tough passes to make later in the run. So it's kind of tough to give up track position sometimes, because you know when you come back around, it's not going to be easy to pass.
It's not going to be easy at all as the middle pack of this group. This is everyone from fifth on back that's clustered in this lane and this train that's trying to figure out, do we continue to stay high? Some of the drivers are trying to make passes low, and right now it's Nick Crawford, first driver, that's really having to stay in that inside row, and he's stalled out. A lot of these drivers hasn't lost too many positions, but the 74 has to move up at some point. The problem is there's no opening for him to move high. Ollie Fonseca in the 24, he'll stay in that position as each lap it's getting a little bit harder here, Zach, to see these drivers off that exit of the corner.
It's definitely getting harder and harder to see these trucks out here, and it's getting harder to pass too for these drivers. So it just shows you multiple things everybody is fighting right now. Is that 74 Crawford really trying his best here to try to clear the 24, but his problem is now when he clears the 24, he gets side by side with it to a Danny Cochran, so it's kind of in the same position you were before. So it's very tough when everybody's stacked up like this racing, and you even got John Forbes selling around the outside of Vincent Sora, who's looking still again to save that equipment. And already Presley Sora on from third on up to Thomas Green, you're looking at about a 3-second gap. So it just shows you how hard the front two are pushing, while the rest of this field is kind of on mixed strategies, with others pushing hard, others trying to save.
I mean, Zach, I'm shocked by the fact that Presley Sora and Vincent Sora, with the amount of time that they've given up to our leader of Thomas Green and to Mark Whitley. I mean, I understand saving, but that first stage, we always see it be kind of the testing grounds of you oversave, maybe you overdrive, and you either drive a little bit more aggressive on the next restart or you back off. And we saw the drivers that backed off, they're backing off even more than before. They must see something that's in the data that they have in their black box that's telling them, hey, we can get a little bit more later on in a run if we back off now.
It's very possible, and the thing that kind of scratches my head even more, Sam, is our first stage, 55 laps, folks. What was the halfway point here after that stage to get to the end of this race? 55 laps. So we're having pretty much the same length runs, a stint of runs here to the end of this race, just with 2 of them included with the green flag stop. I could understand giving up this much time if you're going 70, 80 laps, but the caution's out. Is Presley Sora's around?
Presley Sora issues for the 12 machine as he was being raced by John Forbes, and Forbes gives the bumper and sends the 12 around with a lot of oncoming traffic. And luckily, no one touches the 12.
Yeah, luckily, like you said, no one touches that 12. He did a really good job of just locking it down and keeping it, in a simple position. As you see here, the 12 drives it off in the 1. He's going to clear the 11 here and slide his way up. He is clear, but he's just not going to have the same drive off that 11 is. The 11 there is not going to lift, going to get into the back bumper, and that's one I think Presley Sora might have in the memory banks of, all right, you didn't cut me no slack. Maybe later, if I'm in that same position, I'm not going to cut you no slack.
And then also, there was another incident that I thought maybe was going to bring out the yellow flag before this. There was also the 44 of Corey Deal. He had this situation happen. I think either it was a technical issue, maybe something happened. It forced this 44 just snap into the outside wall. And luckily, no one involved in this incident. But I thought this was what was going to bring out the yellow. It didn't. It was actually going to be Presley Sora.
Wow, that was quite the hit there for Corey Dillon. Like you said, I don't know if that was technical or was that just a snap of oversteer right in the center of the corner. It can happen, but that looked just so weird. And oh yeah, I think that right there is what we call technical issues. Yeah, because you can see the wheel is not moving now. That is sometimes most likely either a wheel disconnect or just something has broken when it comes to the steering box.
As Corey Deal, required damage will be sent to pit road. And we'll see if the 44 is going to call it a night or not, as the rest of the field has gotten done with pit stops. Some drivers going with the 2-tire pit stop strategy, some staying out. And staying out for himself is going to be the 46 of Trenton Jump, who decides to stay out, and his teammate of Eric Stamp as well. So they're both getting a point for staying out and leading that lap. Goes to the 46. Eric Stamp going to be staying out as well. And driver taking 2 tires, Christopher Norris in the 38 will move up to third. 4 tires and fuel goes to Thomas Green in 4th place. And just taking fuel only, Michael Miller in the 99, he'll move up to 5th position. Other drivers that took 4 tires, Cody Reed, he's now up to 14th.
Interesting strategies being played out here, Sam. That's for sure. I mean, I'm surprised that more didn't stay out. Kind of. That was kind of the thing I was looking, and I was surprised more 2-tire stops didn't happen. So very interesting to see. And I think even what happened to Thomas? Oh no, sorry, Thomas Green's in 4th. I thought we lost him for a second there. It went to the back of the field, so I was like, oh no, maybe a speeding penalty for him, but it doesn't seem that way. He'll be in 4th, but. This is a definitely interesting situation. Looks like Christopher Norris is going to jump a lot of those drivers up to 3rd with a 2-tire stop. I think Michael Miller, like you said, he made that 2-tire stop. So that is definitely going to shake things up here. And if you're trying to jump in Eric Stamp, you were definitely hoping more would have stayed with you.
Oh, you definitely would. And I'm rechecking on Miller because his time was a little slow. It was a lot faster than the other 2-tire stops, and it was fuel only for the 99. It will start in 5th place as field is waiting for the 1-to-go indicator for themselves. I mean, Zach, we now have 3 drivers that are going to be on 27 lap older tires than the rest of the field, with our front 2 and then 5th place runner of Miller. I'm nervous for this restart, especially the fact of I don't know if our cameras are going to be able to catch it with how bad this fog is.
This fog is definitely strong. And sorry out there, all to the folks for the viewing experience. It's definitely made things tough for us up here in the booth too to notice exactly what is going on out there, but we will try to follow it to the best of our abilities. And like you said, this is going to be a wild restart. I mean, you got the 2 sets of older tires out front. You even got Christopher Norris. He's going to be the first one on 2 tires. Michael Miller's now got track position to do this. Like, what is going to shake out here is going to be the big question to see. We'll get a few answers here, how 2 tires are going to work and how older tires are going to work against newer tires. So there's definitely some things to be answered for us up here in the booth and even for a few of the drivers, but I'm definitely worried for everybody's safety.
One driver that was hoping to stay out and lead a lap, that was Justin Campbell. Was not the case. He was 3rd driver in line. He had to pit the lap after everyone else in the 9. Will fall all the way down to 31st position when he was inside of the top 15. So a lot more work for Campbell to recover here tonight. But for us, we get to see some fantastic racing action as we are officially into the 2nd half of tonight's race. Trend jump, Eric Stamp, old tires, can they hold on as green flag is out? Wheel spin, it's going to be hurting Miller, who did not take tires under his pit stop. That's the black and green on the inside that stalls out that inside row. But up front, it's the Armadillo teammates. Can they hold back Thomas Green? And it looks like for Mark Whitley, he's going to try to take full advantage of the slower vehicles.
That is, Whitley is just going for it on that outside groove. We saw them do that on the first few laps of the run to start off that last green flag run, and he's looking to do the same thing again. But farther back, it looks like Vincent Sora who's falling back into the clutches with a few drivers, and it's just stacking up for that 15 more and more, not able to have that short run speed that's really going to help him out later.
Well, also what's hurting him is he's got Miller right in front of him that just doesn't seem like taking off as well as you would hope. As Miller will stay low, Sora will move high, and it's a little bit of stall out, costing on momentum in positioning. As up front is still Trenton Jump holding strong, but caution flag's going to wave. Trouble for the 28 of Tyler Horn, who's in the grass on the front stretch.
Looks like maybe a little bit of a self spin. Yes, it will be. So, yeah, this is the 12 or 28 going around all by himself, and it's going to be here on the next lap after this. Is he's going to come out of 2 here, and you're going to see here as he goes into 3, the structure's going to step out sideways. And again, this is a thing I felt like we would start to see a little bit, but it's unfortunate to see it right here. Is the 12, the 28 is just going to step out, and he's going to lose it all by himself.
Slips around, and with oncoming traffic and still being sideways on course, that would bring out the yellow flag, and that is another self spin to bring out a yellow. And with it being a simple, clear-cut incident that we got to see there, and with us entering now the 2nd half of this race, we're going to take our first commercial break of the evening. And we want to say thank you to everyone that's been joining with us here tonight. If you haven't already, remember to hit that like button. And as well, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button hit the bell notification button to be notified when we go live, as we're live 4 times a week. But tonight, you're watching the Iowa Sunrise 170. We're going to go side by side. When we come back, more short track racing. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. You're watching the ISRC Layer Production Truck Series. We're about to go back to green flag action as for the Iowa Sunrise 170. Well, the sun is out. The fog is out as well. It's a little bit hard to see with some of our cameras, so we'll crank it up, do some ride-ons, and get to see what the track is like for the drivers out there on course as we're back to green flag action. You saw there off the exit in the back of the camera, 77 is destroyed, and it is a night where Mark really thought he had a chance for a win, and it might be over. But Zach, this was a horrific wreck for the 77.
That it was. And I think it's going to be contact from the 11 of John Forbes here. You're going to see Whitley come off the exit of 2 here. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but that's the 11 up there on the outside, the 77 on the bottom. And you're going to see as they go into the corner, the 11 is just going to come down into the right rear of the 77. Whitley's going to go head first into that outside wall, and that is going to be night over for our points leader, and that is going to be a tough situation there. And if you're John Forbes, you're not meaning to do that, of course, and turn in there and get them, but I think it's just unfortunately two lines coming together here on entry.
Yeah, I mean, expecting a little bit more, and that's that assumption, right, that some drivers have. I'm assuming we have a little bit more space maybe, and did not happen in that run. And Mark Whitley, one of the favorites, now destroyed, heavily damaged, and required damage. He's going to go into pit road as we ride on board with John Forbes, get his point of view on this incident. You can see the bumps, how vicious they are through 1 and 2, and then into 3 here, Zach. I mean, he's just trying to run his line, but it hooked and sent the 77 into the wall.
That it did, and here is you're gonna see just the beating and banging of the wheel there from these drivers, and I think it's a little bit of a network issue we're having too. So that's unfortunate to see there because these trucks are jumping around, but it's just so bumpy on this track, and the lines come together with it multiple grooves like that. It's so easy for something like that to happen, but such a tough break for the 77 of Mark Whitley. After last week's win, he's going to be sitting in pit road looking to get that truck repaired, and it might be, like I said, night over.
As he will sit in pit road, it does give time for Corey Deal to maybe grab a position for the 44 who had his troubles a few cautions ago, and also for the rest of the field they get to reset for a moment. Again, we still have drivers that have yet to pit since our stage, those being Trenton Jump as well as Eric Stamp and Michael Miller still are on over 40 lap old tires compared to the rest of the field that are on 16 lap old tires. This is one of those races where it seems like the tires are enabling them to hold position. Gain position is not there, but I think for Trenton Jump, he's kind of waiting for a little bit of a longer run maybe to then grab some of these fresher rubber.
No doubt. I think if you're Trenton Jump, you're liking how this is playing out right now. You know, all these cautions cooling the tires right back down more and more, bringing it more of a level playing field. And if he can just hold on to some track position, we get far enough in here, we'll now see, possibly where everybody comes back down and he's in the same, boat as them. So good call here by the 46 to see how he can hold on. Same for Christopher Norris, even with the 2 tire stop. That's really worked out for him.
As the fog continues to grace us with its presence here for this race, we do want to take another look at the weather conditions if we can, because the time of day that we started this race, in the middle of practice, it was around 4 a.m. They were going to race from the nighttime and the early morning to the sunlight, and the track, surprisingly, Zach, it has been getting cooler and cooler as the sun is trying to peek through this wicked fog we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see. I mean, the fog, of course, it's here for the rest of the race, of course, with the conditions. I'm looking on the forecast, but the way the track is continuing to cool off is just very, very interesting, in my opinion. We thought as the sun would rise that we'd see that temperature start to rise, but I think that might even be a little bit of a factor of the fog, just not letting that sun bleed through to the track. So it is definitely interesting to see that it's continued just to get cooler and cooler out there on the racing surface, and it's definitely going to make for some fast times to be turned here late in this race.
As we do officially have, call it a night, Mark Whitley is out of this race. He has left the server, and that will leave us with a total of 33 drivers on the lead lap, 34 that are still in the server, as Mark Whitley, Justin Sipes, and Ethan Smith have all called it an evening. Corey Deal still sits in pit row trying to get damage repair done and might be able to gain at least one position for the 44. But for us set on track and watching this race, it's about to get ready to go back to green flag action as the Iowa Sunrise 170 You barely see it, just peeking through the fog, and it's the 18 taking the green flag as we're back at it once again with going to be 69 laps to go for the 18 of Thomas Green.
Thomas Green is loving how this race is playing out. He has had control since the start, and it's continuing to play into his hands. But right now, we're seeing that battle rage on for second, and it's between two trucks that are on different strategies. Trenton jump on that outside line. You can't really see him there much, but he's got the 38 of Christopher Norris right below him, who's on 2 tires. So these two on completely different tire strategies, and now you're even got Nick Crawford in the 74 starting to poke his way up here. So Snowy Desert Racing, a 3-pack of them right here on top of one another.
On top of one another and trying to find their way forward if possible. But Thomas Green, again, like we said, loving what he's seen behind him. Due to the fact of getting that clean air, it is working to his advantage. Thomas Green is rooting for Trenton Jump. And that's a weird thing to say, that you're rooting for your competitor, one of your rivals, to hold back the rest of the field, but that's practically what the 46 is doing at this moment. As Snowy Desert Racing stuck 3rd, 4th, and 5th currently, and John Forbes, who's had multiple drivers drive off that nose, almost have another one as jumps into the outside wall.
Oh man, I don't know if John Forbes hit the intimidate button after all the incidents he's been in here tonight, but that 46 just got dead sideways on the exit. Great job to gather it up, at least, and we stay green, but he loses out there, drops back to the 5th position. Now going to possibly slide back to 6th with Danny Cochran looking to the inside, but now it's the 38 of Christopher Norris, the 11 of John Forbes, the 2 teammates battling for 2nd and 3rd.
And a few other drivers of note trying to catch up to this top 3 group, or top 4, I should say. You got Vincent Sora still mired back in 8th place, trying to make his way forward, but also right behind the 15, Shane Tarian, Cedric Hunter, as well as Cody Reed. They're trying to make their charge to run down our front pack and have their first couple of chances to fight forward. Update on Presley Sora, who got caught up in that spin off the nose of the 11 of John Forbes. He's mired all the way back in the 23rd position.
That's so tough for Presley, who is having such a great race. We'll see if he can rebound before it's all said and done, but it's getting wild. Danny Cochran makes a big move on Christopher Norris. That slots Norris back to the 5th position. Nick Crawford up the 3rd, and this group here is getting aggressive. Now the 24 Fonseca, he's going to throw it down to the bottom side and see if he can find the spots. There is also Eric Stamp. Remember, he's also on the same strategy as teammate Trenton Jump. Both those drivers staying out.
Armadillo's going to be in line. Ollie Fonseca, who we're right on board with, trying to figure out how to get by the 46 and the 53, but currently boxed in with one in front, one to the outside, and both trying to move forward if possible. But base Zach on what we're seeing right now. Long run, 4 tires and fuel was a great call. If you're taking 2 tires, it's great for the short term to grab track position. No tires, track position gain as well, but you have to be on top of your game to hold your track position and make sure your truck doesn't get sideways. As currently, as we see Ollie Fonseca, 2 Ollies outside, is now going to be the 13 of Cedric Hunter, who almost gives a tap down into turn number 1, and the 24 gets squirrely as we're almost 3 wide, battling for this 7th place position.
Ooh, the 13 had a run on the 53. He saw the gap there for the opening. He went for it. Fonseca and him make contact, and now Fonseca, a little bit of door banging there on the 13. Now the 13 is going to sideways in the middle of the corner. Now this is going to open up the door for Vincent Sora. Can he follow through the 24? And also you got the likes of the 25 of Cody Reed. It's all getting aggressive here off the exit of 2, but you can't really see it.
And there's a couple of drivers also that would be willing to make it 3 wide if they have an opportunity to make some passes, with Talmadge, with Tarian, as well as Gaudio and Malik Kuntz further on back. But Ollie Fonseca, even with all the deep dives that he went for, it stinks, it works out. The 24 up to 7th, but all the other drivers are starting to get stacked behind the 53 of Eric Stamp. This is becoming a cluster. It's hard to see with that outside lane. Almost had a huge accordion effect as it goes into turn number 3. It's Cody Reed. He has to send it low, but we can't even see through 3 and 4. It's too foggy. It's only one half of the track that we can visibly see at this moment.
That is for sure. It is so foggy down there in the 3 and 4 section that we physically cannot see these race trucks. But you can see there Shane Therian on the bottom in the 83. He's trying to work his way forward. The real log jam in this is the 53 of Eric Stamp. He is really holding up that outside, and it's making everybody have to fight for the bottom, which is not the preferred way to pass. So it's creating quite the stack up, and now Talmadge pushing the 53 down the straightaway.
pushing along as you look back on the rear bumper of Eric Stamp, and it's seen being stuck 3 wide once again. Gets turned, gets a little bit of a tap on the inside run, and Shane Tarian, he'll go for an opportunity to dive down low as Cody Reed almost gives a tap. And it's one of those things where we have to just continue to ride on, but trouble further on back, and trouble also for Stamp. Saves it for now as Dakota Moniz and Tyler Horn trouble through 3 and 4.
Trouble farther back in the field as there was almost trouble up for that final few positions there where those battling that drivers were having, but it was that 5 and that 28, and I'm not sure if
it's going to be the 5.
Yeah, the 5 goes around.
As see there, it's the 8 of Mark Morales, but it's going to be the 5 ahead of them, as here's a different situation that happened. Morales had his own little spin, able to continue racing on. Here's what happened to Dakota, though. It's going to be going into 3 and 4. Just gets a little bit overzealous getting into his brakes as he closes in on the back bumper of the 39 of Reed. And I mean, Zach, this is one of those moments where it looks like maybe a little bit too much tire brake bias difference, and then Horn locking up the brakes, and he'll take the wall smack instead of T-boning that 5 machine.
Good job on Horn there not to take out the 5 there. He threw himself in the wall, so valiant effort by him. But I think you're going to see here from the onboard of the 5, he's got the run on the 39, but the 39 is going to have the run off the exit. The 5, Dakota Moniz, doesn't think the 39 is going to slow up that much. He has to jab the brake, and if you got the rear brakes really far to the back, that's just going to shift all the way onto the nose of that truck and really lift up the rear end, causing it to get light, and from there Dakota goes around. So tough break for Dakota, who probably just could not expect what was going to happen right there.
As everyone else in the field enters pit road, the 25 of Cody Reed stays out, and a shocker for Reed because he's on 34 lap old tires, but they're not just all 34 laps old. He took 2 tires when he entered pit road the last time around. He is on over 60 lap older tires on one of the sides on this truck, and I'd imagine that you'd prefer to have fresh rubber, but he took the bonus point. Leading the lap was the goal for the 25.
That it was, and I'm surprised Moore did not take 2 on this stop that came down. I mean, we see, I believe, Thomas Green, Jarrett Talmadge, they're going to take 2 tires. Shane Therian in the 83 machine, but it looks like John Forbes, Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, they're going to be the first few on 4 tires. And to me, Christopher Norris showed that the 2 tires worked very, very well. I mean, he held track position and was able to really hold station. So that's going to be a huge gain for the 38 now, who is on 4 tires, and you got pretty much the same track position he had as before. So this is very, very interesting.
It's going to be your top 10 current drivers. Cody Reed in the 25, Thomas Green, Jared Talmadge, Shane Tarian 4th. 5th is John Forbes, Nick Crawford 6th, Christopher Norris 7th, 8th is Ollie Fonseca, Danny Cochran 9th, and Trenton Jump all the way down in 10th place. 2 tires taken for your top 4. A couple of other drivers taking 2 tires in the middle of the field. Going to be Joshua Kanata up to 13th. 14th is Presley Sora, who is trying to get his recovery run to try to catch up and maybe get a little bit of payback on the likes of the 11 and John Forbes, but it's got still a lot of work to move forward with. If you're just joining us, we started the night off on some controversy as Justin Sipes gets involved in a wreck between himself and Larry Yingling, and then trying to get retaliation, takes out Ethan Smith. Then we got to see a couple of other drivers getting caught up in trouble throughout the night with a couple of cautions mixed in between. But it's all been the drivers up front of Thomas Green, who's been mostly leading this race. I got to say, Zach, it's been a weird shuffle of how this field's been going.
Really has been a weird shuffle, and I think it's been fun to watch as we're going to get to see our top 5 drivers here on the screen. Is Cody Reed, of course, on the strategy that he's played to stay out here on the older set of tires. Thomas Green, been the dominator of the night. Jarrett Talmadge, great 2-tire call there for him. Same for Shane Therian. Then John Forbes, who's had an up-and-down night with some contact from a few drivers, and it's been a wild one, to say the least. So our top 5 has all different stories that we could talk about, and if we went even farther through the field, I mean, it's a mixed bag for a lot of drivers.
It certainly has been, and for us up in the booth, it has been a weird one. If you go back and rewatch the start of this race, again, we started in the early morning. It was about 5 a.m. in sim, And we thought we were going to see maybe the fog dissipate as the sunlight came out. Did the complete opposite. It's been getting harder and harder visibly to see, and we thought as well the temperatures would maybe rise as the sunlight would come out. Currently now it is 6:12 a.m. in sim, and that ambient temperature cooled off to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and the track temp has heated up slightly, but not to the degree that we expected, Zach, when we entered into tonight's race.
No doubt. I thought, when we had 71-degree tracks at the start of this race, I thought it would have climbed high into the 70s, but just a very interesting weather day here at Iowa as the sunrise comes through.
As the field gets ready, if you could see the white pace car pull off and they enter the Geico restart zone, we're back to green flag action. Cody Reed again on extremely old tires compared to the rest of the field. They're already trying to stack 3 wide, almost 4 wide, battling from back in 7th, 8th, and 10th position. But up front, it's Cody Reed, Jared Talmadge. Talmadge with the better run for the 10 on the inside. Talmadge, who slapped the wall earlier, he's trying to take the lead, but watch out behind him. Forbes, Terrian, Norris all get into one another as they can exit off the corner, but oh, trouble! It's the 24 of Oli Fonseca and the rest of the field clobbering into one another.
Oh man, that is tough to see a few drivers there taken out by that one right there. As I think, luckily for the likes of a lot of them, they stayed out of the inside wall, but I think Aaron Kralik is the one who's going to take most likely the heaviest lick as he gets into Oli Fonseca. So such a tough sight there, because I think it's Danny Cochran, all these drivers, because it's 4 wide down the back straightaway here at one moment, and they're all just trying to find grip as Trenton Jump drives around all of them. It's going to be right here where the 24, the 15, the 2, all of them kind of squeeze into each other, and it's going to be the first of 2 who gets up into the 15 up into the 24, and from there it's a chain reaction. Look at Cedric Hunter barely missing his Aaron Kralik comes in there for the heavy hit.
Yeah, that Cochran Soar Racing team, almost everyone involved in some fashion in that incident. And hard contact all around for the majority of the drivers involved in that incident. Eric Kralik again just plowing his way into that one. This might be our clearest view being on board. Again, all of our outside cameras, it is so hard to see because of the distance. As we're on board with the 01, he's just running his own race. Sees a little bit of smoke, drops down low, and just nowhere to go. There's no way you could predict that type of an incident.
No doubt. And he got hit in the rear bumper even, and from there he's trying to slow the truck down and miss the wreck, and you can't, like you said, predict that Fonseca is going to be sliding down there, and that's just a tough chain reaction. I think we're going to get to see how he got rear-ended here coming to, really trying to miss that wreck. I think maybe the likes of Mason Cassidy here sees the driver right behind him as there's a checkup, and no, didn't get clipped at all.
He wiggled. Right when he got onto the apron, that transition, then touching the grass, that's where it looked like he got hit, but it was just how vicious the bumps have been on track as well as when they go into the grass. As we try our best to peer your eyes, squint a little, might be able to see what happens here as seeing Isaac Shalley on the outside, Malik Kuntz as well, and going to be seeing the 01 doing his best to avoid this and locks up the rear, and honestly, that little bit of sideways avoided Danny Cochran, but again, nowhere to go once he saw Cedric Hunter right in front of him. I mean, just nowhere to go for himself.
Like you said, he had to kind of throw himself out the way there, not to hit Cochran. He goes across the transition, he hits the grass. There was just so many bad features there playing out for the likes of Aaron Kralik, and also Iowa native himself. That's got to be a tough one to be out with the damage like that. So crazy scenes there, and it really just is a chain reaction event here, coming off of 4, everybody racing really hard 3 wide, and know the laps are clicking away. I mean, we are not far from this race being, very much getting to its end, because you can click laps off here very quickly. So it's a tough position to be in, and through all of that, Jared Talmadge is the driver that comes out on top as Reed held on the second. Talmadge was able to jump himself up to the lead.
We'll see how this restart's going to be hurting Cody Reed. What's also been crazy about that incident, maybe there was a full moon in sim for these drivers, because we talk about how connection issues, sometimes with connection issues, you can be graced by iRacing to have yourself make contact, you get no damage. It looks to be almost everyone involved in that wreck didn't have bad enough damage that they're out of this race. Almost everyone able to get simple repairs done, and everyone that was involved in that wreck still on the lead lap and still out there on track.
It's everybody's fighting, man. Still, you know, they got a lot on the line here. You don't want to have DNFs early in the season. You want to be able to go out there and try to get as many positions available, because we've seen what can happen already. I mean, it can easily end where a driver has got major damage, and you could be getting those spots back. So even if you got a little bit, you get it fixed up, get back out there and clean your truck up. So it's definitely interesting to see. And even after all of that, you know, Aaron Kralik, we talked about the hard hit he gave to Ali Fonseca. He didn't even hit pit road. He stays out in 16th, and he's got a pretty banged up right front, but I would have think that thing would be a lot more destroyed. But somehow that 01 just must have a tough front bumper.
Graced by the iRacing gods is the 01 and plenty of others. As up front, still going to be Jared Talmadge, Cody Reed, Thomas Green, John Forbes, Christopher Norris going to be your top 5, with Shane Terrian actually going to be in that 5th place position. As the field's getting ready for this restart, laps are ticking down quickly. 45 laps to go here tonight at Iowa for the Iowa Sunrise 170. Pit road is calling for the pace car, and into the restart zone. It's Talmadge taking us to the green on the outside. Rest of the field trying to find an opening, but Cody Reed, even with the older tires, he'll stay side by side into turn number 1.
Great start with the older tires for Reed as he tries to hold on here off the exit of 2, but it's going to be Thomas Green, Jarrett Talmadge, the 2 teammates working together, but it's John Forbes diving to his teammates inside, 3 wide for the second.
3 wide now going to be for 3rd place. It's hard to tell, but it's going to be 3 wide between the teammates of Snowy Desert Racing. Norris on that 3rd lane, Reed in the middle, Forbes on the inside groove. And speaking about teammates, it's Planet Sim Racing. 1-2, Talmadge, Green, pulling away is Jared Talmadge with his teammate in green right behind him.
Everybody pressing the go button pretty much now. You even see Shane Therian here. He's working his way forward, and you're seeing a lot of the drivers here who took those 2 tires out front with the first on 4. It's going to be Christopher Norris. So what could he do in that 38? If he could go out there, get himself out front, get a victory, that would be such a momentum and confidence move for this young kid who's been kind of in a slump here for the past few seasons.
I mean, I talked about the fact that Christopher Norris, season 5, he had the duel between himself and Mark Whitley on who was going to have the regular season championship, and a win here tonight could put him right back into the mixture. But the last 2 laps have been all Talmadge. And Zach, I'm concerned. We still have over 40 laps to go as Forbes rushing the wall just slightly as trouble strikes further on back, though. Exit at turn number 2. The back stretch has a couple of drivers coming to a halt.
That we do, and I'm unsure exactly who it is. It is very hard to notice what's going on out there, but it looks like a few drivers involved in something there that happened. As we'll get to see exactly what played out here. Is, you can see the 15 of Vince Sawyer here. 1 is a little bit loose. Right here, right around the 3, Anthony Guardia, the 16 of Joshua Kanata, as they head off into 3. Let's see what exactly happens here off of 4.
They were getting mixy with one another. Ooh. There's trouble for Gaudio. That sent him in the grass to lose trouble. I believe the rest of the field, they continue to race on. And then we continue to go. I might have been an issue further up ahead. Again, we're looking for exactly where the wreck happened because there's so many problems. It looks like it could be around Eric Stamp. Required damage for the 53 coming out of turn number 2 for himself. And yes, that is where it was. It's going to be this incident. 3 wide. Malik Kuntz, Eric Kralik, Eric Stamp going to be exiting out of turn number 2. And just a little bit of a looseness, pinching the 53 into the outside wall. And the rest of the field tries to get around them as cleanly as possible, and they do. But major damage goes to Eric Stamp.
Wrong place at the wrong time for Eric Stamp and Aaron Kralik. There is, man, I tell you what, that 98 on the bottom just snapped loose. Malik Kuntz, he gets up into the 50, or the 01, sorry, and that launches him up into the 53. And it's something we've seen all night. You know, you can get loose here very easily, and just with the hard racing, the close action of the racing we're having, it is so easy for stuff to happen. And we even a little bit of retaliation on the pace laps.
Drivers not happy with one another under this condition, as again it just was hard racing all around. And Saw there a couple of bumps given to prep this situation as they continue to race on it. This is the last couple of moments for Eric Stamp before he's forced to pit road. Luckily for Eric Stamp, it looked to be only a broken toe length for the 53. He is able to get damage repaired and somehow still on the lead lap, even with required damage of that contact there.
Just a heavy collision there, and I think Aaron Kralik, Eric Stamp both were not happy. They both went up on the pace lap, I can confirm, and made contact with the 98. So both those drivers definitely not the biggest fan of that contact, but like you said, Sam, it's kind of just a racing ordeal. I mean, the 98 just steps out. Definitely no malicious intent from the 98, maybe just a big mistake. So it's tough to see that happen there, and definitely not want to be hurting your own truck. But yeah, it's been one of those nights where drivers are just trying to make it to the finish of this race, because it has been a tough one out here at Iowa.
Well, it's always one of those funny things when visually we're not able to see, or sometimes when we're not even able to broadcast some nights, drivers somehow get a little bit too antsy against one another. They get a little bit, again, hot-headed was the term that I used before for Sipes, but they think that we aren't going to see those things, or maybe the admins won't see because there's too much fog. We have replays, and those retaliation bumps, most likely the admins are going to have to go back and look at, and we'll see if anyone's penalized heading into next week at Road America, where I'm presuming some drivers are not going to have the warmest of welcome heading to that road course. But I know they're most of the field, they're excited for the road course to be over, because then we get a week break before we come back for Dover, where it might ramp everything back up once again.
That's very true. The Monster Mile, how it can act, and heading into Road America, you definitely don't want to have a penalty. If at a track where we're not going to throw a caution, it's going to stay green throughout the race. You don't want to have to start from the back, because you're going to have to drive through at that point, and that's very tough to do at a technical road course like that. So it could be an early or a long night for a few drivers next week after a few penalties possibly coming through after this race, because a little bit of feelings hurt.
Looking at the field, getting ready for this restart. Lights are off. We are going this time by Jarrett Talmadge, Tom Screen, the teammates from Planet Sim Racing, going to be your front row. Then it's going to be the teammates for Snowy Desert Racing of Christopher Norris, John Forbes, the driver that's marched his way all the way through this field, and we knew he was going to get to this point at some point late in the race, and he's finally here inside of our top 5. Watch out for Shane Terrian in that 83 machine. Biggest mover, started all the way back in 34th position, did not qualify, was the 83. He's going to try his best to march forward, as given a little bit of spacing in between for that second and third car on the inside. A little hard to see, but don't you worry. We're back to green flag action, and it's the teammates side by side giving plenty of room, but it's going to be seeing Jarrett Talmadge rocking his way forward. But watch out for the 38 of Christopher Norris. If he gets a good launch, he might just send it in there for second or for the lead.
Oh, contact between the two teammates up front. Green getting squeezed by his teammate Talmadge on the exit. Now Green's going to have to dive to the inside. Here comes John Forbes, though. Another 4 tires for him, and he's going to look to make it around the outside here and see if he can make this move stick. But if you're Green, you got to get by your teammate. And from what I've seen, it's going to be tough racing between the two teammates, because they know this is possibly for the win. And Green's going to lose out here, as now it's going to be Forbes ahead as they head into 3 and 4. And Jarrett Talmadge looking to drive away.
We talked about maybe the intimidator button has been turned on for John Forbes, because there was space to move up, but Green said no. Did not want to see his back bumper get torn off by the 11. Forbes is on go mode. Following in suits Christopher Norris on the outside. They are taking off, but the outside wall calls for Forbes. A little bit of a tap, has to hold back Norris and others, as now Nick Crawford dives it down low. Same for Trenton Jump further on back, but it's all Jarrett Talmadge up front. But for how long? Because John Forbes is there trying to close in the gap.
And Nick Crawford got loose off of Ford, got into Trenton Jump, and both of those drivers losing out a heavy jump. The one who's going to drop all the way back to 30th, and you're going to have Nick Crawford dropping back to the outside the top 20. So big moments there, but it's the 18, the 11 going at it. As the 18's loose off a corner, and that's going to stack him up.
Just like that, both drivers from Snowy Desert Racing and a little bit of a tap from the 18, both kind of hurting and assisting Thomas Green to be pointing straight at the end of the day. Now finally solidifying in that 4th place position, but You're not safe there. Behind them, still Shane Terry and Presley Sora, Vincent Sora, Isaac Shelley, as well as Ryan Bird, all trying to run down this group. You can't see a darn thing off of 4. It's just the white light at this point. But further on back, trouble for last place as drivers are wrecking off of 4.
That it is around that last place position, and there was a few of them involved. I think Justin Smith was where it all started from, with a little bit of contact between him and Anthony Gaudio. And you're seeing there, as we're Trenton Jump there, who had his moment off of 4 there with Nick Crawford, but definitely started around that 6, heading off into 3 around the 3 machine of Gaudio.
And it is around Justin Smith that we're going to be seeing this wreck as they were entering turn. Yeah, there's the start of it. Entering turn 3, going 3 wide. We'll see how this builds up. Going into this incident, you have Anthony Gaudio on the outside, Justin Smith going to be side by side, and Gaudio, who at one moment was inside of our top 10, battling with drivers. You also have another top 10 driver that was contending, Cedric Hunter. They're going to get side by side, and the 6 just turns into a pinball, and then Tyler Dangler kind of ships him away, and everyone else just starts piling in dramatically. And Corey Deal, sadly, gets involved with another incident, as you saw there. I believe that was Freed, gets pushed high. Deal, who is screaming his way around the course, comes in, I believe, clobbers one of the drivers off the exit of the corner as he was trying his best to avoid that incident.
Yeah, I think it was Freed there who unfortunately got caught up there and even jumped with that mess. So you're going to see here from the onboard, and it's all going to be happening, I think, on the next lap around. But it's just so tough, man, when everybody's battling for every little spot on the racetrack. People are having mistakes here and there, and it's just going to be one of those situations where you can't miss it sometimes.
As the field finds themselves getting ready for this next launch, I believe this was a prior incident that we're right on board with. This isn't the wreck that we're going to see. So the field knows, Zach, that we're getting to the end of this thing, and you know that it's getting to a point where this race is going to be trying to settle, but we're coming up to the end of this race with 25 laps to go. You have to make the hard decision at this point. Do you pit for tires, or are you sticking with what you got?
I think you got to stick with what you got, man. They were running some really, really fast times there at the end of that run right there, and if you pit now, you see what you put yourself back into. I mean, it's just so far to make up time, and it's just one of those situations where I think you're going to see everybody stay out from here on out. Maybe if we go green for, the majority of this race right before the end, you might see some late pits there to just try to get something to happen there if we have a green-white checkered later. But I think we're going to need quite a substantial run before anybody decides, hey, we're going to come back down the pit road, because they know track position is kind of king right now. You really kind of get boxed in. You got to do what you can, and right now the gloves are being taken off because we're seeing a good bit of contact out there from a lot of drivers. So this has been one of the more wild races. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get the greatest viewing experience because the fog out here really clouding up our screen, so to say. It's been tough because, man, the action has been wild.
It certainly has been wild, and one of the drivers had more of a wilder night. We talked about it earlier, the bizarre wreck of Corey Deal getting sent to the outside wall. We knew it was something out of his control that sent him into the outside wall. Turns out, just typed it in the chat, Corey Deal hate slammed the wall earlier on. Daughter grabbed the mouse, lol. That is, I thought I heard a child that was on the microphone when Deal got into that wreck. And unfortunate for Corey Deal, that's where he got that major damage earlier on for the 44 that set him back to be 35 laps down currently.
That's such a tough ordeal there, because you don't want to be mad at your daughter, of course, because she, of course, doesn't mean to do that. But, man, that's tough for Corey. He'll have to bounce back next week. That damage really destroyed that truck. And, of course, getting into that next wreck, it didn't really help either. But, he'll have an opportunity at Road America and Dover over the next 2 weeks to try to make up for that. But that's such a tough situation when it's out of your hands like that. But looks like the lights are going to go off, Sam, and we're going to get them re-racked back up. It looks like Talmadge is going to take the top side, and his teammate Thomas Green is going to start up there along with him. This might be a timed restart from the teammates.
and they figure out the timing for this launch. I know for Corey, going back to that situation, I've heard drivers talk about having their pets jump on them. I've heard of pets messing with the mouses as well, and having their children messing with their equipment while driving. It's always bizarre moments, but again, it's like real life racing, the randomness of equipment failures. That's our random side of things on the sim side. As we are stacked side by side, it's Jared Talmadge on the outside, going to be your control vehicle on this restart. We are counting down the laps quickly before this race is over for the Iowa Sunrise 170. John Forbes can't really see him on this restart, but they enter the Geico restart zone. We are green for Jared Talmadge on the outside. 2 tires for himself the last time they went into pit road. Forbes willing to get aggressive, and the 11 is there, side by side. The 10 machine has to get a good launch, or Forbes will take the lead and never look back, as a little bit of teamwork on the front back stretch, bump drafting, but it's John Forbes staying close. We're 3 wide for the lead off the exit of turn 4.
Oh, this is going to get wild here. As now the 11 goes up into the 10 machine, but it's going to be the 18 of Thomas Green. Did he pull the masterclass move there, make the maneuver to the outside in 3? But his teammate Talmadge is going to try to clear here, but he's not going to be able to do it. Another car in the wall back there. I think Logan Brakey hard into the outside wall, but we're going to stay green.
It's Samuel Garcia that's going to be slow on the outside, but it's not going to bring out a yellow. We continue to stay green. The teammates stay side by side. It's Thomas Green wanting to have the nose ahead, and finally does. Slots behind. It's going to be Jared Talmadge, and it's going to be the Planet Sim Racing crew. 1-2 still, and the driver that tied for the pole. Now back to the point where he was dominating so much early on, and now we're in a spot, Zach, where we haven't seen anyone pass Thomas Green in a green flag situation. Will he ever be passed is the true question.
That is definitely the true question in the battle for 4th is raging on. Shane Therian, Christopher Norris, as Shane is trying his best to clear the 38. I think he will actually on the exit, so move the 83 up to the 4th position. But man, oh man, Thomas Green back where he wants to be, up front and dominating this race with his teammate Jared Talmadge in tow. But the caution's out. I think Trenton jumped Tyler Horn. Actually, sorry, Nick Crawford even around.
Nick Crawford going for a spin. A 74 and a part of the track that, again, it's hard to visibly see. But it was a little bit in front of Horn that there was a driver spinning, and that was Trenton jump sideways. As it looks like there's Jump and Ollie Fonseca making some slight contact, entering the corner that got Nick Crawford where he's at in this position.
That's exactly right. It looked like the 46 and the 24 making contact on the entry of the corner there. Things like the 24 kind of diving it down into the door of the 46. That sends him around, and you can see Crawford here. He's going to run right in the back of Tyler Horn, and that's going to spin him around. So just a tough ordeal right now as cautions keep breeding cautions here at Iowa.
As now it's going to be 20 laps to go. Going to be less than or closer to 20, I would say 17 laps to go to 16 laps to go when we go green. But here's another look at some other situations that happened on track as we're seeing, I believe it's the same Anthony Gaudio instead of him going in the grass again.
As he's drifting through a little bit earlier we'd seen there, but yeah, this is tough scenes right now, and right now also a mixed bag with strategy here, Sam. A few drivers deciding to pit, and I'm kind of surprised by that because it puts them so far back in the field. This is going to definitely shake things up, to say the least.
And those drivers that pitted, I don't know why they did, but they did it. Ryan Bird, 2 tires. Shane Terrian, 4 tires. Nick going to be Christopher Norris in the pit road. Vincent Sora, Dakota Moniz, Danny Cochran, Justin Campbell, all pitting, but they went from inside of the top 10 to outside of the top 20. Ryan Bird going to be leading that crew again in 22nd position. The track position you lost to the fresh rubber you gained with the amount of laps that are left, it doesn't equal out, Zach. This is a major loss unless we somehow stay green. You're able to make all these passes or everyone up front wrecks.
I don't even know if you'll be able to make the passes, Sam, if it stays green. That's a big head scratcher for me. I think if you're one of the drivers who just pitted there, you gotta be hoping for a lot of incidents to happen now and kind of hurt all the drivers ahead of you, because in my opinion now, you know, like you said, you look at Ryan Bird, he's 22nd back there. Shane Therian, 23rd. Shane and Christopher Norris, both of them were up in the top 5, and they're going to be back in 23rd and 24th. This is under 20 to go. I don't see the fall off that we're getting from these tires this late into the run, just due to how many restarts and cool off periods we've had on the tires. I mean, I look back to that run there. Thomas Green was running a 23.17. His best lap of the race is a 23 flat. So that is a 10th off of that. I do not see the reasoning for a pit stop there.
No, and now you're trapped in a position where we've talked about the back of the pack, middle of the field. It is a wall. It is gridlock. Feels like impossible to pass. And I understand for Shane Terrian. I mean, he's made big passes earlier on in this race, but there was a lot of drivers willing to give up some positions, maybe willing to give up some space in some free area for you to make some big moves. We're less than 20 laps to go. We're going to be close to 15 to go when we go green. These drivers are not giving up the same space that you had only back in lap 1.
No, sir. That is for sure, Sam. This is pretty much put them in a situation where, like you said, they're going to need to stay green, and they're just going to have to hope to even get back to the top 10, let alone the top 5. I really don't see a case where you're going to make up that much time. I'm looking to the guys like a Presley Sora here, who's up to 4th, Isaac Shelley up to 5th. I mean, great calls on them to stay out. Same with Michael Miller, Larry Yingling, who hasn't really been up here all night after his early incident with Justin Sipes. These calls to stay out are going to come back to be a huge benefit for them, I think, here. Now, I could eat my words, but I really think that is the strategy that is going to play out to win here. It's just not enough time, not enough tire fall off. It's just one of those situations where I think some guys are going for desperate moves, hoping more would pit, but others behind them decided, no, we're not pitting. Our tires have not even fallen off yet.
Well, I threw it out to you as a question about 20 laps ago of, is this one of the last times you're going to want to come to pit road? And Cody Reed was one of those drivers. Same also for Malik Kuntz. I mean, Anthony Gaudio in the 3, Cedric Hunter, they made pit stops earlier on about 10 to 20 laps ago that put them in a position to have a chance. Cody Reed runs 8th. Can he climb his way forward? You can't see the drivers exiting the corner until they cross the start finish line because of that crazy fog. But we are green as the teammates are back to 1 and 2. But can they hold off the threats of the brothers trying to make their way forward of Presley Sora, Vincent Sora? John Forbes, though, almost losing his rear end with that cutting move.
Oh, man, we're having some major network issues as they scatter down the back straightaway, and Yellow's already out.
Yellow is out. Multiple drivers caught up into wrecks, and somehow the field didn't wreck more. Jesse Thornock, who's looking for one of his best runs. Mason Cassidy, the biggest, destroyed in this incident.
This is going to be some simple contact between the 20 and the 3 machine here off the exit of 2, and just a tough scene there. Like you said, Sam, we're lucky that more trucks weren't torn up there. As you see, that's a little bit of the later condition that happened, but here we go. We get to see on the restart exactly what happened, but Thornock looks like maybe not getting the greatest restart. That allows the 3 of Gaudio to get to his outside here. Thornock's going to come off the bottom, and he's just going to wash up into the 3 here, and this is going to be tough scenes for Jesse, who was having a great run there in the top 10, and now both him and Anthony Gaudio are going to be losing out hugely.
Gaudio's frustration. Mason Cassidy, who tried to slow down, locked up the brakes, and it just turned him around. I don't know if he got any help for the 17, but a bizarre wreck for the Go Mason machine. But once again, not the way he wanted it to go at all.
Definitely not that case of that for sure, Sam. And yeah, that was an awkward moment there.
And he was clipped.
Yeah,
he was clipped by Samuel Garcia.
Oh yes, he definitely was. We're right on board with this, and you won't get to see the hit that he takes in the rear here, but he definitely gets hit right at that moment. You see the truck just break loose and into the 20 of Jesse Thornock, and just nowhere to go for Mason Cassidy, that's a tough ending to his night.
And talked about advantages of taking tires, thought maybe it was too far back. Ryan Bird restarted all the way back in 22nd position with all that fiasco that popped up with drivers trying to avoid the incident and trying to gain spots. Ryan Bird has been able to advance up to 16th position, so 6 spots, but you're losing all these laps because of the yellow flag pacing.
That's exactly right. These laps are wasted laps for you. You really can't get them back now, so to say, and when we cross the line next time by, it's going to be 11 to go, and we're not even going to be taking the green flag there. So most likely it's going to be 10, maybe 9 to go when we go back green. And now I look to the likes of Cody Reed. You talked about him. He was one of the last to make his pit stop there. He's on 27 lap old tires there compared to 42 laps for a majority of the guys he's around. Cody Reed has a shot here, folks. If the 25 can get a good restart, get a few spots, we get another restart after that, it will be a very interesting situation.
And Cody Reed, a driver who's performed well here at Iowa in the past. Look back, this track has been ran 3 times in the past, back in season 6, 5, and season 2. And in season 5, Cody Reed actually led the most laps. It was Cody and Danny Cochran, the only drivers able to lead laps. Cody led 79 of 140 that day, but Danny Cochran came away with the gold. Cody Reed, though, entering this season, I know most seasons when we look back at Cody Reed, whenever we talk to him, it's always the confidence of, I'm winning this race. That's what he would always say each and every week. In some weeks, he would have a lot more confidence than others, but here tonight, Cody did not qualify well. Practice really didn't look spectacular in speed, but you know, it's last season. Nick Crawford won a ton of races based off of strategy calls and just being in the right position. Might have worked out for Nick Crawford's Snowy Desert teammate, Cody Reed. He runs 5th. And he also has his teammate of John Force. We'll see what John has, because we know, Zach, John has been willing to make some big moves and be aggressive when it matters here late.
That's for sure. And I mean, he had a big scare on that last restart. He was on the bottom side of Presley Sora, got loose, and I mean, we were mere inches away from that 11 taking the 12 out once again. And luckily, I think the 12 even blinked out, so he didn't get into him. So it was close contact there. And we know John, willing to risk it, willing to send it. He already has a win in his back pocket. He's not too worried. I'm thinking here, though, if you're Thomas Green as the lights go out, you're going to take the bottom side here, knowing Forbes is up top on the 4 tires, and that allows your teammate, Jared Talmadge, to start up top. You're just going to hope to clear your teammate, and then from there, let your teammate do the work of defending, because, I mean, if anything, Thomas Green has been really the driver that has took control of this race since the drop of the green flag. He's just trying to see that checker flag because this race has been hectic.
Well, if you're just joining us, well, no, your screens are not dusty, and no, it doesn't need to be cleaned. This is the fog. It has been building and getting worse lap after lap here this evening, and it's down to the teammates up front. Thomas Green, Jared Talmadge, they will try to hold back the rest of the field on 2 tires compared to the rest that they took 4 the last time they pitted over 40 laps ago. As we get ready for this restart, it is going to be a dash. 9 laps to go here in Iowa. Thomas Green gives us the green flag as they roar down in turn number 1. Better squint, better get ready, because the fog is out at full, and running for second place, that's Presley Sora.
Green could have not asked for a better restart. It's 2 truck links back to his teammate, who now clears the likes of Presley Sora, who's fighting for that 3rd position with the likes of the 11 of John Forbes, but the caution's out once again.
Driver sliding, skidding, and it's Tyler Horn who's going to bring out this caution, as he had a little bit of a slower entry compared to the faster drivers behind him, and this was that concern of the large majority of fast drivers going to the back. It's going to be right here. Vincent Sora, tap, spin, slide for Horn, and Horn's running his own race further on back, trying to salvage something, and Vincent Sora, who's got a much deeper braking zone, gets clipped into that 28 machine.
We see this a lot of times here, folks. When you have people who are on fresher tires, they put themselves farther in the back, and you have the likes of the 28, who's one of the drivers that majorly runs in the back half of the field. He's going to check up for the corner a lot earlier. He's on older tires also, and I think it's just going to catch the 15 of Vincent Sora off guard, and unfortunately, he's going to be trying to jump to the outside of the 28, but his left front's just going to clip the right rear of that 28 machine and send him around right there. So quick caution, and again, that stops the halt of the tires going forward. Ryan Bird up to 14th. And you can see here, again, that strategy to pit just not coming back to play.
It's not. He was able to gain 2 positions just on the first 2 corners ran, but this is going to be sending us inside of regulation, potential green-white checkered, or a 3-lap to go window for this next restart. Now, we're not officially into overtime just yet, but this is going to be another dash, and if you're the leader of Thomas Green, the only focus in mind is don't wheel spin it, get a clean launch, and you win this race. It has been the control car it takes about 3 laps for drivers to catch up to you. And if we have a green-white checkered inside of regulation, or we head into overtime, Thomas Green is in hand to take this win. Full grass. There's no one else that really can touch him.
I'd have to agree with you, Sam. He's done an excellent job. I mean, the way the restarts are working out, if he can just continue to have those types of restarts, it's going to be very tough to get to him. I mean, if he has more restarts like that, you're pretty much racing for second on back because, you know, Talmadge, he's done a good job to just clear that second row and keep them, you know, kind of defended. And if they can pull off a 1-2, what a night that would be for this group. So that is definitely, I think, on both their minds. I mean, if you're Jared Talmadge, you want to go for the win, but you know that your teammate has been so strong all night. You kind of just want to play that back gunner role of just saying, all right, I'll hold these guys back. You get a good restart, and we'll go get this 1-2 for the team.
Thomas Green has been searching for a victory for a while now, as the 18 has been a part of the league since season 2. Took a little bit of a hiatus break, and we missed Green for a bit there. Came back in the middle of last season. Same with Jared Talmadge. Got to see Talmadge really with the Cinderella story of getting every point possible to make the playoffs, and the 10 looked incredible. We always knew Thomas Green has been statistically the stronger of the 2 drivers. We knew this moment was going to be possible at some point this season with the shrink we saw coming to the end of season 6, and we are here. A chance, Thomas Green, to get back into victory lane. It's been a while. We know for Green, he would love to hoist the championship early in this season.
Oh, for sure. If he can get this victory, that takes so much weight off his shoulder. And, you know, this is not a surprising victory to me. I mean, we can look back, of course, to Iowa last season where very, very strong. And, I mean, you know, got to give you credit, Sam, for the great pick with him because he was definitely that driver to watch coming in tonight along with Vincent Sora, who just has had a very, very poor night for him when it comes to giving up track position. But that 18, the way he was running in the playoffs last season, not being in the playoffs, it just showed to me that he could possibly be the one to break through in the next season. And we've seen it from him in past seasons. You know, we look back to season 2 with him. Like, he had these runs before. It just seemed like he had to get back into that role again. And tonight, he is definitely showing that he's going to come to play when it comes to race wins this season.
He certainly is. That's Thomas Green trying to get himself into victory lane here tonight as we get ourselves prepared. Again, I want to say thank you to all those that have been viewing tonight's race. I know it's been a difficult one viewing-wise with the fog. We hope to take this aspect out of Monday nights moving forward. But man, it's always weird when you get these types of races. It always seems like there's a funky thing that happens each and every season with the ISRC Truck Series. I mean, we had the timed race back in season 1, then it turned into an actual thing for the future seasons. And here tonight, it's the fog race. As green flag is out, it is going to be a 3-lap shootout. Thomas Green gets a great launch. It's going to be the duel for second place. Presley Soren's fully clear. Here we go, Zach. Teammates not behind the 18. It is a battle, but Cody Reed, he's down to the inside.
Cody Reed, what opportunity he's had, but also it's Presley Sora's chance and opportunity, but the yellow is out there wrecking big farther back.
Back behind, Ollie Fonseca goes for a spin. So does the 01 of Kralik. And Justin Smith had to go for a pause. And this will send us to overtime.
Oh, man. And this sets it up even more interestingly where we got Thomas Green, Jared Talmadge in first and third. Presley Sora up to second. Cody Reed up to fourth. Wild scenes. But, yeah, it all started back there around the 24 of Ollie Fonseca.
It looked like Ollie got a little bit of help going in. Oh, going a little spaceship was there for one of our drivers. I believe that was Isaac Shelley, who went up to the sky for a quick moment. But the driver heavily involved in this wreck was going to be Ollie Fonseca. It looks like he might have gotten some help off the exit of turn 2 that got him loose and tried to save it. There were too many other drivers around him to try to save that thing.
Oh, definitely so. And I think there was a little bit of contact from the 38 of Christopher Norris. And those two have had a rocky past history, so we'll have to see how that all shakes out. But definitely setting us up for an overtime finish. And I tell you, I think there's a lot of drivers that are just saying, "Get me out of this fog, get me out of Iowa. I'm ready to go to Wisconsin," because this race has just been a disaster for a few.
I got a feeling we're gonna have a good read on our end while reading the Octagon drivers voicing their frustrations after this race, because some drivers, the fog has brought out their worst. For others, they have brought out some of the best performances they could have asked for. Got Thomas Green trying to get himself back into victory lane for himself for a second career win, if possible. Then you also have Presley Sora trying to get into victory lane for the first time for the rookie. Jared Talmadge has had some great runs in the 10. Cody Reed trying to get an oval win here this season. And so many storylines of what if moments getting stacked up and ready for overtime. If this is your first time being a part of an overtime attempt in iRacing, well, the rules are simple. With overtime, we have 3 attempts if needed. Each attempt will have 2 laps to finish out this race. And if we finish the first lap without a caution, we will then race to the end of this race. But if there is a caution under the first lap, we will then send ourselves into our second or third attempt if needed. Third attempt, if there's a caution on that last lap, coming to the last lap, we will finish this race under yellow. But if we ever take the white flag, this race is official. Next flag will be the checkered. And Zach, we've seen plenty of races where it comes down to a late dive bomb move. You bump someone a little bit hard. You try to mimic what Austin Dillon did. Someone might try it here tonight if they've got a feeling one good bump could get me into victory lane.
Very, very true, Sam. It's when you see the big leagues do that type of maneuver, it kind of trickles down into all the racing. That's the unfortunate thing when we see things like that done from the Cup Series guys on a Sunday. Is sometimes that trickles down and drivers think that's the right way to race. But with the grouping up here that we got up front, I don't think we're going to see nothing too crazy. Now, that does not mean the bumper can't be used, because the bumpers are all fair and legal. A door is fair and legal to use on somebody. We just don't want to see anybody get wrecked. So we'll see who's able to do it. But I mean, if you're Thomas Green here, you definitely don't feel as safe. I feel like this time, luckily for his sake, he's going to have still his teammate on the bottom with him here. He's going to have to try to catch this 12 off guard, because the 12 is the one I would be worried about. Presley has charged his way back through the field after getting spun by John Forbes earlier. I think this 12 has a chip on his shoulder to try to go win this race after that incident earlier.
Well, Presley having a little bit of blinking issues there. He's got to hope that his computer holds up with the fact that there's so much fog out there in track. This could also be affecting drivers if they did not get their settings right to handle fog for some of their settings. So there's always that worry of someone accidentally having issues, as we got a total of 31 drivers going to be on the lead lap for this first attempt at overtime. We've lost a few drivers: Aaron Kralik, Mason Cassidy, Corey Deal, Mark Whitley, Justin Sipes, as well as Ethan Smith throughout tonight's race. But we are now in our first attempt at overtime. Once again, the rules are simple. Once we take the green, they have 2 laps to finish this race. If we get a caution under the first lap before taking the white flag, this race will go into its second overtime attempt. But if we take the white flag, this race becomes official, and it's all about who crosses the line next to take the win. Drivers are set side by side. Control car will be on the inside groove with Thomas Green having his teammate of Jared Talmadge right behind him. It is your Iowa Sunrise 170 into the restart zone. Overtime attempt number 1 is underway, and Thomas Green got the perfect launch, gets his teammates side by side for second place. Here we go, Zach. It's all green.
And that's exactly like you said you want for Thomas Green to see. Your teammate gets side by side, but Talmadge gets tight through 2, and the wreck is out again.
Wrecking behind, and it looks to be the 6 spun around. I take that back. It's Christopher Norris sent to the inside, as some drivers were getting into one another a little bit frisky down into turn number 1.
Oh, and it's going to be multiple contacts. I believe the 38 first makes contact with the 29 of Logan Brakey on his front end. Then maybe the 9 kind of comes in there, gives him an extra little bump after that. And man, oh man, that's just going to bring everything back to old and re-rack them back together, as it was the 38 and the 6 going around. So both of those two going to drop back to 30th and 31st.
And this will send us into our second overtime attempt, as the field's getting stacked up and ready for this restart. Again, still going to be Thomas Green in your lead position, and then having his teammate of Jared Talmadge not able to hold on to second position, which honestly might be a better decision and a better spot to be in if you want to be that rear gunner and to help out Green get into victory lane, is be directly behind him on this restart.
I completely agree with you. Like, you know, this is a good situation for Talmadge because they can kind of time the restart. But now that Presley kind of knows where the 18 was looking to go, he can try to time it a little better. So we'll see if the 12 can, you know, use that last restart there on the outside to kind of help his next restart. Now, I don't think he's going to be able to stay side by side with the 18, but the key for Presley is he needs to be able to clear this 10 machine off of 2. If he can clear the 10 off of 2, he's going to have a good opportunity to try to go up here and fight with the likes of Thomas Green. But if he stays side by side with that 10 or the 10 clears him, it's going to be pretty much race over if they get to that white flag.
Also, updates for drivers throughout the field. We talked about different scenarios. At one moment, just that of over 25 laps ago, crazy to think, you had the likes of Christopher Norris, Shane Terry, and they were inside of our top 5 before they made the bizarre decision to go into pit road. Zach, they've actually lost positions. Ryan Bird furthest ahead of that group, only up to 13th place. Other drivers of note with fresh rubber compared to our top 2. Cody Reed, obviously the top of those drivers, is going to be on the outside second row for the 25 machine. Other drivers of note also going to be Trenton Jump. He is on some of the freshest rubber of anyone that's inside of our top 10. Same for Cedric Hunter. They're on 32 lap old tires for Jump, 34 old lap tires for the 13 of Cedric Hunter. Only issue, they're further on back. They're going to be further back in that 4th to 5th row on this restart on overtime. So they might need another overtime attempt to have a chance to go after the lead, or at least a top 5 finish. But it is really down to just our top 4 on who's going to win this race.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. It's, you know, it's really up to the top 4 now who's going to win the race. If you're the likes of like Trenton Jump or Cedric Hunter, like you said, you're going to need another green-white checker to have really any opportunity really to break into the top 3. I don't even think that the fresher tires like that are going to help them too much. We've had so many heat cycles that really the tires have just kind of been brought back to even, and that's where I think a lot of these guys who pitted, I mean, they're going to go back and just be like, man, I made a super wrong decision here tonight that I came down pit road. I mean, they probably don't expect us to have caution after caution after caution, but you know, when a short track races come down to this late race maneuvers like this, you kind of almost got to expect the cautions. You know, you can't really expect it to stay green, and it's going to come back to burn a lot of drivers here tonight that could have had easy top 5, maybe even race for the win positions. I mean, I looked at the lights of Christopher Norris and Shane Therian. They were in the top 5. They pitted. Shane's made his way back to 16th, but if you're Christopher Norris, you're back in 29th after that incident and been involved in multiple wrecks. So it's like, it was not worth it in their book, and it's going to be I think a decision they look back and go, man, I wish I'd have done the opposite.
Yeah, the risk to reward was highly skewed to the risk, and it did not reward any of those drivers so far. But the pace car lights are off. We are going this time by, and your leader going to be the inside row of Thomas Green in the 18. Presley Sora going to be on the outside for the 12. Then in the second row, we've got Jared Talmadge and Cody Reed. Then behind them, it's Isaac Shelley and Michael Miller. We haven't talked about Michael Miller that much here tonight. He's had a very quiet night for the 99. Might be able to escape away with a top 10, maybe even a top 5 by the end of this evening. And your biggest mover so far is Isaac Shelley and Miller, both over 20 positions gained from the start of this race. The ultimate goal, take the white flag. If we don't, we get a yellow flag before that. We head to overtime attempt number 3. We are green for the Iowa Sunrise 170. It's a dead even launch going into turn number 1. Sora's got a chance off the exit of the corner, but they're bustling back and forth, further back for 5th place. Sora's on the bumper, but caution calls. We're going to overtime attempt number 3.
Another wreck here, and like you said, going to overtime attempt number 3, and if you're Presley Sora, you are not happy with that. That was about as good a restart as you possibly could get. I mean, he was setting up the crossover on the 18, and that caution comes out.
Logan Brakey in the 29 going to be the driver, spun around as they were entering turn number 1. 4 wide. I don't know how you get to that position so early on into the corner, but it was a dashing move for multiple drivers to go for a chance, to go for a pass, and it backfired for Logan Brakey, who was turned around. Eric Stamp also got a clip of that incident, but ultimately this sends us into overtime attempt number 3. The rules are different from attempt 1 and 2. With attempt number 3, if we get a yellow flag on this first lap, the race will end under yellow. We will not race it to the end of this thing unless we take the white flag.
And I don't want to be a betting man, but there's a high probability I think we could get that again. I mean, that 4 wide kind of happened off of Brakey just kind of rolling up to the back of the truck ahead of him, and they took off right when he slowed down as he rolled up to him, and it kind of checked him up. That allowed Justin Campbell to get the run, and from there it was 4 wide, and 4 into 1 wasn't going to work too well. They had contact, so it's a tough situation. But if you're Thomas Green, you got to have one more clean restart. I mean, that time was about as close as you possibly can get to having someone set you up for a pass. The 12 was going to have an opportunity down in the 3, but it all got washed away by that yellow.
I mean, Zach, it just feels like if you're the 18 Thomas Green, you've already timed it in the middle. You've tried late restart. At this restart, you cannot go late. You have to either go in for the middle or go right away. Those are your only 2 options. If you go late, everyone knows when you're taking off at that point.
You're exactly right. I think you have to kind of, like you said, aim for the middle or the early part of the zone, because if you wait late, it's very easy to judge. If you're that car, you're like, oh man, I need to be ready right at that moment. I'm personally thinking you need to almost go as early as possible in this one. We'll see what he elects to do, but I do like those early fire-offs in the zone, because I feel like the farther you wait into that zone, the less the more easy it is for that driver on the outside to time. And if Presley can do that same thing again, it's game on. I mean, if we stay green, that would have been an opportunity, if anything, to make contact, to get to the inside. Now, we don't know if he's going to make the pass with that maneuver, but it would have gave at least a fighting shot for him.
It certainly should. As we find ourselves, it is 7 a.m. in Sim for this next launch. The track temps are not very different from where they were just a mere 50, 70 laps ago. But the field, they know this is the last restart of the night. They're waiting for those pace car lights to click off to give us the indication that we are going this time by. Thomas Green, Preston Soar going to be your front 2. But if you're just joining with us, well, you've entered at the perfect time to see who's going to be winning the Iowa Sunrise 170 here this evening. No, your screen is not dirty. It is not dusty. That is fog that has been getting worse and worse visibly wise as the race has gone on. And something we thought was going to be the opposite just continues to grow. So we're going to do our best to call you where the drivers are at when it gets very thick. It's mainly through 3 and 4 when the visibility is at its worst, as we are again waiting for that lights to turn off on the base car to give us the 1 to go indicator. If we take a yellow flag on this first lap, the race will end under yellow. If we get to the white flag, though, this race will conclude under green. Zach, any final thoughts before we get ourselves ready for the last restart of the night?
Well, I tell you, it's been a night of unknowns for sure so far, and I tell you what is not unknown is the fact that we're definitely going to end it on this restart. This is the last one of the night. No more opportunities available. It's full send. We could have some checkers or wreckers, so to say, and I would not be surprised if that is the case. So we'll see what Thomas Green can do. Can he change it up here, get a better restart on this time? Because Presley Sora, again, was excellent on that last restart. He's going to need another one of those masterclass restarts if he wants an opportunity at this win.
What a way to start the week off here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We've got super speedways, bigger tracks upcoming for the next 3 days. But for tonight, this race will either end under green or under yellow. If we take a yellow flag on this first lap, we will finish off under yellow. If we take the white, this race will stay green, and it's all about who crosses the line first. Your last restart of the evening. We're into the restart zone. It's equal. Sora's there. Sora's almost a nose ahead as we drag race down into turn number 1.
Let's see what Sora can do. I think he's going to try to set up for the pass off the exit of 2, but he gets to the quarter panel. That's exactly what he needs. Down the back straightaway, side by side. Thomas Green seeing this race possibly slip away from him.
Thomas Green thought that he was going to have this win. He's been the dominator up front. He's going to have to dive it down low, try to slide in front of Presley Sora. No, contact spin, yellow flag. Presley Sora wins the race, but Calamity all behind.
Oh, man, Thomas Green is going to be not happy with that there. I think a little bit of contact from Cody Reed. Presley Sora wins the race here, waiting for the pace car to catch up before we come back around to complete this lap. But Thomas Green, all those restarts, everything going to come to an end there for him at the end of this race.
Presley Sora, one of the most anticipated drivers for seasons. He was always questioning from at least everyone outside, when was Vincent Sora's brother going to hit the course here in the ISRC Truck Series? It took him 3 races, 3 overtime attempts, and the 12 machine is into victory lane and locked in for a chance to run for a championship. Congratulations, the 12 machine of Presley Sora. He finds himself already with gold. Zach, the 12, we knew this was going to happen, and he's finally going to be in victory lane.
Well, I'm worried about a few of these guys passing the pace car pretty early here, so we'll have to see what shakes out from that. But yeah, Presley Sora, congrats on the win. And it's all in the restart zone, man. He did that all by just timing it so well. And I'm almost questioning myself, you know, could Thomas Green have took the outside there to position himself better? But at the end of the day, you do what you can, and it just doesn't end up the way you want. And man, Presley Sora with the victory this early in the season. I don't know if anybody expected it this early, but we knew at some point that 12 would be in victory lane.
No, there was no way that we could have predicted that this was going to happen, but Presley Sora gets to enjoy it. He's burning it down for himself. And for us up in the booth, we will step away as we will talk to our top 3. Presley Sora, Cody Reed, Jared Talmadge, and a spotlight driver right after this. What a run here tonight. Thomas Green's got to be frustrated, but it all is given to the rookie of Sora at the end. We'll be back right after this for our post-race show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're so sorry for the dramatic just showing up. We are sadly gonna have to end the broadcast here as we're having some technical issues on our end. But don't you worry, we're gonna have more great racing action throughout the week. We cannot wait to see you then. But for the ISRC Truck Series, congratulations to Presley Sora. We hope to talk to him maybe next week at Road America. But for tonight, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you so much for joining with us for tonight's broadcast. And we hope to see you next week or maybe throughout the week as we have races tomorrow night as well as Wednesday and Thursday. And again, for myself, Sam Dyer, Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., everyone else, thank you for showing up. We will see you next week. Otherwise, tomorrow night for our next Freaky Fast broadcast.